let's call this meeting to order. And we're going to begin with Mr. Higginbotham.
All right, you have your weekly update of the project list. Just a couple things to bring to your attention. Obviously, in the lower right-hand corner again gives you those two numbers that are committed thus far, the council's one-time fund balance and the amount of money that is remaining to be paid in the approved projects. And then for the...
So we're approaching the $1 million in expenditures beyond what's currently appropriated.
Yes.
But we've had this conversation with council several times.
I just keep the numbers before
I
council.
think I recall it mentioned.
And then the annex generator project, the contracts have been signed by the contractor. He has sent in his product sheets to make sure that they comply with the specifications that have been developed by our project designer. The website is up and running for the fairgrounds, as well as our social media project, social media pages. The EMA ramp covering started Monday. They were in the last 2 nights grinding the floor, and they'll start putting down the epoxy flooring, which consists of several different layers, but the most smelly layer looks like it's going to occur over the weekend.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Right.
And if not, obviously we're prepared to ventilate that area with fans.
We need to get some of that proof that is advertised on TV.
And then we've added item 35. This is the circuit court judge's office security. That project has been added. And then number 39, the Coleman Center HVAC project. Those two other units are now installed and they're operational. The last things that they have to do before that is finished is to replace that temporary ductwork that is on the first unit and to run a thermostat into the chambers for the one of the new ones that they installed. And then the number 41, the HVAC project for the expo hall. Again, I told you that the foundations, they've started that. And I indicated to you last week that the contractor had indicated that they're going to have a long lead time on some of the material. The day that he got the day after he got the email from the vendor that it would be 30 to 36 weeks, they came in. So,
Go figure.
I know. So I don't know where the disconnect came from, but he did get those items. So now they're waiting on the units themselves, and there's a lead time on those, but it's certainly not that long. So I think we're still looking at early winter.
Theoretically, it's not that long. Okay.
And then and that's all on projects for now. The tree removal, remember, for the parking lot out here, that's going to happen tomorrow. I think we've made notification to all the departments to park elsewhere tomorrow. I know we've got several.
Does the health department know?
They know, but there's still going to be some spots out there. We're only going to close half of it. So I've sent out emails to the affected departments that didn't, there's still going to be public parking, and it'll be congested.
Yes, it will.
And then in your packet of information before you, you've got this GIS map, and what this is, remember the deed sale coming up. So that property that's highlighted in blue is a property that is on the deed sale. And I run this past Ron, and the lady who lives in that house on the bigger property, the house is right below you there. She's been mowing this for several years, and she actually came to the deed sale when we had it out at Coleman with the intent to purchase this and be into that debacle. So she is wanting to purchase this. My suggestion is there are no other abutting property owners, and she is willing to take this, and I suggest we pull this from the deed sale and start that process to sell it to her for the $100 plus whatever.
I would agree, and since there's no other adjoining parcels, then we can transfer it to her with
Well, we have still got a process you got to go to. Is you send out invitations to all adjoining property, abutting property owners. There's only one. There's only one invitation goes out. She's already
to her,
talked
right?
to Steve, so
Okay.
it's kind of form over substance. But
Okay.
yeah, we
So
can do
there
it.
shouldn't be any.
So my recommendation is we
no-
pull this from the deed sale and formally transfer this
Do
to
we
her.
have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would not like this to I would not this to be a normal process, but since she's already had,
Well, this would be one that ought to be a normal process, and the same
Well-
facts present themselves in the
So,
future.
Common sense.
Yeah, I think so, for adjacent property owners, for bare ground.
That's why the statute's there.
but there are adjacent property owners too.
She's the only one.
Yeah, it's bounded on the other side.
She's the only
by-
legally defined abutting property owner.
Yeah.
Abutting.
And that's what the statute addresses. And this
But-
lot is not capable of being developed as a standalone lot.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
It got split off decades ago some way,
Somehow.
because there used to be a house on there. And in fact, the steps are still there
You can see them, yeah.
to get up to it.
But there could be circumstances, I
I
think.
agree, but I mean, I think this is
If it's a buildable lot,
a paradigm situation of where it ought to happen.
But there could be circumstances under which
sure.
$100 is not really the.
Well, or, I mean, even with multiple abutting owners, I think. If I go through that process, if there are multiple abutting owners that have an interest, there's going to be a commissioner's deed sale that they can buy it.
Right, and that's normal. I think you shouldn't make this a normal
I don't disagree with that,
process.
Randy.
That's all I'm saying.
This one's just-
I mean, but my motion is for this circumstance, especially since she's been through a unfortunate experience.
Well, and she's been mowing it, so
That
we don't
counts
have
for a
to.
lot.
So
We know
we've
exactly how
We've
much.
already saved $100
Right, right.
or more.
I'd rather deal with this on a case-by-case basis
Oh, I
rather
think
than
we have
making
to.
it protocol.
So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
To add to this,
Okay,
You want to go back to Ron?
let's go back to Ron. Mr. Cross?
Yes, sir.
you know,
What have you got for
I had
us,
2 or
sir?
3 of them.
Well, I have a template that I had prepared, and I really haven't completed it, for notice of the deed sale. I'll just pass it out and Steve, you can look at it.
Take a look at the language on the registration deed.
Okay.
'Cause that's the one that, the issue, I think, we'll see. And I really wanted to know,
That's what I'm
work with
saying.
Mark on the logistics of how we're gonna make this work that
Thank
day
you.
of the sale, because it's gonna take a little time, even if there's only 12 or 13 parcels for everybody to settle up. And if any of them don't settle right away, then we want to keep the auction open.
Right.
So I don't know what's involved in Mark's ability to process those payments, both before the auction, when they're going to register and pay you a $500 deposit, or after the auction, when you're going to have to remit the deposit if it wasn't fully used, or apply it against the purchase prices of someone bought 2 improved properties for minimum bids, that'd be $1,000. So I guess I don't know that it needs to be in the notice, but I think we need to get those logistics worked out ahead of time.
Okay. Mark, any initial thoughts?
This applies just to this special sale of properties that
Correct.
we're redoing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is not the tax sale, the big one.
No, there's a statute on that. We can't charge $500 a paddle fee for that. I think the maximum is like 20 or
Okay.
25.
And I think it should be in the ad.
Was it that, yeah, I put.
Yeah, okay, you said, okay, I didn't.
Then you're saying to me they're supposed to bring some kind of deposit?
We want to, I mean, at the time we thought that through, there was still the possibility of some obstruction. We don't know that that's totally gone away, but I think that, and I think your point after that sale that day was you ought to collect a day of sale.
Right.
This will do a lot toward that collection because the minimum prices will be $100 for unimproved, $500 for improved. So, but
What do I
it's
do
not-
with the guy
there's
who
going to be
calls
some
from-
adjustments made, you know.
What I do with the guy who calls from California?
What?
There's a guy that calls in from California that wants to participate in the sale.
Well, you got to be present.
Okay.
Okay.
We will work something out because we'll work something out.
Okay, well, I just don't want to get there that day and not have to give it any advance thought, but that's more of a devilish detail than it is the notice itself. And the last one, I've got to put SRIs. We can just say that we reserve, that we're going to conduct the sale with an auctioneer without identifying the auctioneer, so throwing that out, given the same concerns we had.
Right, and I'm fine with that. But what about in number 2 here, where you have not yet identified how many hours, within how many hours of the sale they?
Yeah, again, I don't know what staffing level we're going to have in Mark's office. If one person's going to do that, that's probably going to take, I would hope, no more than an hour.
And that's what, we need to shorten that time as much as we can, so that.
Sure, we want to keep people around if in
Exactly.
fact there is a failed bid, or a
Right.
failure to settle.
Right.
We're surrounded by financial institutions that can prepare official checks very rapidly. I say 1 hour.
In this situation, I think that, I mean, I may have put plural, but I mean, I wouldn't think any longer than that, but much shorter than if somebody, you know, there's always somebody that's going to take a little longer.
So we'll fill that in within 1 hour of the sale of the final parcel.
If we were doing this at the fairgrounds, that might not be sufficient, but right in the middle of all.
Yeah,
I mean, the only situation I can see that would become a problem is if they are multiple, we buy multiple properties.
Even then, I would think,
So if you start at the beginning and they want to bid on one that's number 15, they'd have to wait around to the end.
well, yeah.
They're going to know there's a high bidder, you know, and I would think if they just
Okay.
tell whoever,
But there was one that had salaries.
is the same guy going to be our auctioneer from
Didn't that
SRI
lie with, remember?
Jason?
Huh?
Jason?
Jason.
Blue Book.
Sell to Jason, and they got to run over to Wayne Bank and get
Okay.
a certified check for, you know, whatever. But if they're going to go to 5,000 on a property, then they should expect it, because normally you have to settle the same day.
Right.
Yeah. No, I don't, I just think that could be, somebody could bring that issue up.
Well, more than likely it's going to be an out-of-town bidder, but I don't know that that's going to, it'd just be interesting to see how this works out. And see how the paddle fee or so-called registration fee is going to work out. That stymies the people that are,
Yeah. Yeah. We won't know until we try it.
Have we allowed money orders in the past at Commissioner Sales? Do you recall, Mark?
I don't think so,
I think it's
Chairman?
cashier's check.
but I will do whatever it takes to make sure that this thing.
whatever your regular, we also want to conform to your standard operating procedures as much as possible. Less-
I understand.
The less deviation, the better.
Right.
If
I
you don't take
understand.
money orders, I'll take that out.
What alternative would there be to a money order that I can use?
Certified check.
Certified
Certified check. That's the language I
cashier's
Okay, then
check.
take the money order out.
I mean, the whole intent would be collecting funds, which money
Right.
order normally is.
I think that's the language we've had in the past, is certified check.
I think so.
I don't recall seeing money order.
Okay. Well, I don't think
I
we've
can't
done
say
this
either way,
before.
but I haven't seen it across my desk.
I'll make it read certified. Bank certified.
All right. So we're good with that?
Good.
I think that's all we got right now.
I have the time and date in here. 10 a.m. September 8th.
Nothing else right now, Ron?
I've got it, again, I printed it out, and I don't know that I collated it.
Were you guys?
I could not find any additional guidance from the Attorney General on the use of opioid settlement monies, but I printed out the former one.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew that they would eventually ask us for reporting, and
Right.
they did just that.
So, Mary Ann has asked to be authorized to do the reporting for us.
I'm fine
She's
with that.
been
Do we need a
appointed
motion
on
for that?
this. Yeah, why don't
I'll
we?
make a motion that Mary Ann is the authorized reporter for the opioid settlement.
And I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for taking
Obviously,
that
I
on.
won't send anything to anybody other than to report that they should send me the reporting
Right.
document, and then
Right.
as soon as that's prepared, I'll submit it to you for commissioner approval.
Good.
And I don't know exactly how detailed it will be, but it's really nice to have all of our recipients having responded. I knew it would be really late and a short turnaround.
Speaking of submitting for approval by commissioners, let's skip ahead to, there's a couple of letters that we need to approve. The first one is, I think you both are aware that I was asked to participate with Earlham College as they put together a Lilly grant application of up to $25 million. And they had 3 or 4 committees. They asked me to participate on the housing committee, as I've been very involved in housing for the last several years. And so I did that. They're now asking that some of the entities that were participants that have partnered with them, the Urban Enterprise Association, Wayne County Convention and Tourism, Wayne County Foundation, the EDC, the Chamber of Commerce, the STAM Coachline Foundation, as well as Wayne County, sign off on a letter of support that, I've got a copy here that basically just says we've been actively involved in collaboration and so on, and they would like for me to sign on behalf of commissioners and put the Wayne County logo along with the logos from those other entities as part of their application packet, which is actually due September the 1st. So we don't have much more time to help pull those together. I would suggest that we do that and you authorize me to sign on behalf of Wayne County.
I move that we convey our support for this Earl initiative.
Second.
Sure.
I'm sure. it's-
Sure, take your time.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to allow the president to sign on behalf of the county in support of Earlham's Lilly Grant application. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mary Ann, do you want to move on to the proclamation for Hagerstown?
Yes, this is a proclamation that was requested by the city manager of Hagerstown, Chris Lamar, to be a part of the celebration Friday night at Willie's and Red's between the two cities of Hagerstown, Indiana, and Hagerstown, Maryland. The mayor and numerous dignitaries from Hagerstown, Maryland are coming, may be arriving as we speak this week to continue the 10-year Sister City program between the two Hagerstowns, and a proclamation for the two Hagerstown was requested. And I did not know this, sorry to say, that there are only two Hagerstowns in all the world.
I didn't know that either. In fact, I Googled it.
Oh, of course I did too. You know, trust
And
but
you're
verify, right?
I couldn't believe that. Maybe Hager is a really uncommon name. I don't know, but there's no other Hagerstown.
Only expected to find one in the British Isles somewhere, right? Or Germany, but I did not request, Bobby, that we have two proclamations presented, because how can we choose between our own Hagerstown and our beloved sister city in Maryland? So if I could, because while I was getting the plaques, it occurred to me, wait a minute, this is a proclamation between sisters. Which one shall we choose, right? So I think it's only appropriate that we, and thank you, Jeff, for agreeing to go to that dinner Friday night to present the proclamation. But it seems only right that both Hagerstowns be on the receiving end of the proclamation. So it, you know, a light bulb went off as behind this flag.
Good idea. Good idea.
I guess the only way, I would like to move that we do proclaim Friday, August 18th, Sister City Hagerstown Day throughout Wayne County, and call upon the citizens of Wayne County to celebrate this day. So I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the proclamation for Hagerstown. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, so we'll get that signed and put together.
Blue or black ink? Maybe we should.
I don't know. What do you think?
I have blue, but
I have blue.
Could I borrow your blue? I
Sure.
think it looks best so that
Sure.
we're all in sync.
Sure.
And we'll need two of these.
Yeah, so we'll need Bobby to get another one. We can do that. All right. Steve, let's go back to you. And you were done with projects.
Ron, are you going to send this to SRI or?
Did we decide we're going, well, I guess I can send them their comment, but if they're not going to be advertising it,
They're going to advertise in the play-in.
they were going to do the legals, you mean?
That's my understanding.
Oh, I was going to have Bobby do that, but
I remember I'd sent an email and they clarified that they would do the advertising.
okay, then I really want them to.
So, you want to send it or you want me to send
I'll, to,
it to Jason?
if you, did you get the blanks we're filling in 1 hour?
Yeah, just send me the.
Okay,
or
I'll send it to you electronically.
Send it to Bobby.
Send it to Bobby.
Send it to Bobby, and then Bobby can do it, so.
There's one.
Okay.
I would just have him send it to both of you so you've got it.
And
So you got that. Okay, what else, Steve?
Last week I passed out that draft on the fairgrounds survey. You've got a copy in front of you if you didn't bring it with you, but remember you to look at that and have comments if you wanted to make comments before we start to utilize this. And this will be, the intent is that this is to be used after the rental has completed, so that we can get feedback from that person.
And the committee put this together, right?
Yeah,
With
Haley put it
Haley
together.
read it, but the committee's
Yeah.
reviewed it.
it looks fine to me.
It looks good to me.
I think we make a recommendation that this is what what they used on us, we need motions for that. Or
Let's go ahead.
I make a motion that we approve this survey to be used after each rental at the fairgrounds.
I second, I especially like question 10 to capture a testimonial. That was a brilliant stroke of wisdom on their part.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, let's skip over to Michael Sharp. Good morning, Mike.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Good.
Thank you, sir. So you want to fill us in on the
We had
transfer?
a few transfers. The first set is from local road and street, be transferring from calcium chloride and salt to bituminous of $28,600. And then the second one, local road and street, be transferring from stone and gravel to bituminous of $50,000. The calcium chloride and salt, we're not going to be using any this year. We're full, so I didn't order any. And then the stone and gravel, when we set the budget up, we throw money in there, and this is kind of typical. We have to throw money around between the two to make things work. But we're finishing up our sealing today. Should be finished today on our single sealing and our strip sealing. And then we still got a little patch paving to do, but we're kind of ahead of schedule from where we have been. So it'd be a total of $78,600 on that transfer.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And then the second one would be in the MVH fund, transferring from tires to school tuition, $4,900. This would be for, we've got a person hired to send to truck driving school. So this will pay for that. It's $49,000 or $4,950, but we've had $5,000 in that, or $50 in that account already. We're transferring from tires. The last person that left went to a county tire is where they were employed at. They owed us back for tuition, so instead of them, the company was going to write us a check. Instead of having them write us a check, and then we deposit it, we can't use that money. I had them put in we're getting a credit, so we'll have a credit at that tire store, which we'll be spending over $10,000 in there before the end of the year.
Okay.
So this is just transferring since we got a credit.
Any issues with that?
Don't call it to anyone's attention, but keep your file paper trail.
So-
That's a practical way to handle a problem like that. I have to commend that.
Absolutely. So we've got documentation of the credit.
Right.
Okay.
Remind me, what is the period of time for clawback to kick in?
For them to pay back, or
Uh-huh.
they got 1 year to pay back.
1 year, okay.
So we have another one that's making payments, trying to make payments. We haven't received all that money back, but this company was paying for it, so that it was all going to be one lump sum. So I thought this was a better way.
Clawback's always a year, the maximum.
Yeah, they have a year.
But the amount clawed back is a function of how long you work.
Okay, it's stepped down according to.
Right. It's a 2-year contract that they have to work for us, and then it's prorated from that 2 years. From once they get their CDL license is where we start looking at their
And then they have
timeframe.
1 year to pay it back.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, okay, but a 2-year
2
commitment.
years.
2-year
that is then
commitment to
prorated
work.
By treadwear, okay.
Right.
All right.
Okay, so the request is to transfer $4,900 from tires to school tuition in the MVH fund.
So
49.50, right?
$4,900.
Oh,
I had $50 left.
You
over.
had 50 and, okay, I got it.
so moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You know, if nothing else, we're at least training truck drivers for the regional economy. Right?
I don't know if that's a good thing.
Well, at least there'll be a person behind the wheel of the truck you pass in the interstate.
Exactly.
Ivy Tech South.
Okay.
And then the next thing is a request to hire a truck driver. I've got another one that turned in resignation today, so he's moving on to RP&L. So,
Okay.
RP&L is out paying us a lot.
everybody's out paying us.
Okay, we have a request to hire. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
I
Second.
have a motion and a second to approve rehiring of a truck driver. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
This will leave us, or put us at 2 open positions for truck drivers. We got 1 hired that we have to send to school once the money's transferred, so.
Jeff, is a transfer that you just approved what was going to go to council tonight?
Correct.
I don't know if you saw the email exchange, Max and Beth, but whether
I
Mike needed to be
wouldn't, I
there.
wouldn't think there's any reason.
Yeah, I talked to Max. Max is gonna cover.
Okay.
Okay.
I was
I
going to
don't
say,
know why he would. I mean, there's no reason to.
I wouldn't think
We
he
approved it, and it's just,
Yeah, I think there won't be any issues with it.
Okay.
That's all I have unless you have anything else.
Any questions for Mike? You're all set for tomorrow morning? The parking lot?
Oh, yep.
Okay. Thank you for taking care of that for us.
And can you forecast the planting of the post? When you expect to do that?
Well, everything's outlined. It's where I want it positioned at. I've talked to Richmond. RP&L does not mark the electric for the stoplights for Richmond. So I talked to Greg Steens out of Richmond a couple weeks ago. He was supposed to get that done. When I was out there to check it yesterday, they hadn't marked it yet. So I called him yesterday, and he's supposed to get it marked for the electric
okay.
for the call for you
Yeah,
today.
'cause-
So that's the big, everything should be good. I think where I'm going to place it should be good. The other signs that are going to go on each end of the bridge are ordered. I'm trying to get them in by next week, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But if they come in, and they'll be, if you look at the Main Street bridge, or the 40 bridge, I think it says Lamar Lundy
Right.
Memorial Bridge. It'll also say Dr. Mary
Thomas.
Memorial Bridge. Nothing
Oh, it
brown.
doesn't, it says memorial? It doesn't need to say memorial.
What do you want it to say? Just the
Dr.
bridge?
Mary Thomas Bridge.
Okay. You don't want
Can you
Memorial.
kick the memorial out?
Yep, we'll try it. As long as they made them yet.
If,
If they have, we'll
if
kick
they've
that
made them, okay, I just hope memorial isn't in there.
out. Okay, we'll try to get that cut out. All right,
Yeah, like
Thanks.
George Washington Bridge doesn't have memorial in it, so.
okay. Okay.
Everybody knows, if you're born in 1816, chances are you passed.
Probably not still with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike, take a look at the email exchange between me and Brandon.
Yeah, I talked to Brandon before he emailed you.
And do you need an account? I mean, I guess Mark's going to have to be the one to give us some guidance on that.
Yeah, they kind of pick up the account numbers, whatever they want, it's fine.
Mark, let me know, because I need to get that ordinance completed, even though we're not going to act on it tonight, apparently, because we don't.
So this will be a separate fund, Mark?
Yes,
With 2 line items, one for county, one for bridge, is that right?
we're talking about what now?
For the jail bond.
Jail bond money.
When I set that up, or when we set it up, it's gonna have to have a fund separated from all other funds.
Right.
It's gonna have to have at least 2 items, one for bridge, one for highway. When you make your transfers, or you need money for the bridge funds, for example, then we'll go back in and you'll ask for that amount of money, and then we'll make the transfer from that to another line item with the name of the bridge, how much it did, all the stuff that we had before.
Right.
So in effect,
That works for you, then?
Yeah, because for the community crossings, you gotta have a separate fund. So then if we need if the project's $100,000, we'll take $50,000 from that, whatever fund that jail bond money is, put it into another account fund. And then when we receive the money from community crossings,
Then we
we'll put that
deposit.
$50,000 into that. Then everything that we pay will be paid out of that fund. If there's anything left, then it gets split out between us and the state. if we don't use all the money.
I think that the way we're doing this is, will accomplish what you need.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure. Because we're gonna have several line items by the time we get done. But the bridges, we do anyway that way.
Right.
They're all listed in the budget separate.
But the original fund was 4,600 and wasn't it?
I think that's what it is.
That was on your note to me.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. And I think
Okay, well.
you're right.
I'll get that. We're not going to get that tonight, so that's fine.
All right, thank you, Mike. You got
Thank you.
all of
Before
your-
you leave,
all of
Mike.
your forms back?
Mhm.
Okay.
At what point do I get the information on the transfers?
I'm gonna make a copy and give it
Okay.
to your office now.
Yeah, okay. I just don't,
So he needs our approval to take that to council to give
right,
the transfer.
Council did this tonight.
okay.
The first step. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's on their budget for council, but you'll get a copy. I'll
That's
give it to
fine.
Debbie
Just
or something.
wanna
What
make
I do
sure
is
you-
make a copy for our records, and I just
I don't
give
want to
it.
miss you.
Yep, yep.
Brandon, good morning, sir.
Morning.
How are you?
Pretty good, you?
So far, so good. All right. Tell us about this.
Okay. That is our construction inspection contract. We went through the selection process and selected Beam Longus and Neff as our consultant to do the inspections. They were the ones that designed the bridge, and the selection committee felt that due to the nature of the project, it would be best to have the same firm do the inspection that did the design. So that's been sent to NDOT. Their fee has been reviewed by our department and NDOT and is consistent with the requirements of the project. NDOT does pay 80% of that amount. So I would, looking for approval to execute the contract.
Do we pay this first and then we'll reimburse the 80%?
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's $393,300, a contract for, with Beam, Longest, and Neff.
Correct. One quick caveat, they have not been able to execute their side of it yet. I was hoping to receive that this morning. I can bring that back to you next week if you would rather have that first, or I can get them to do that later today.
We're okay to go ahead and sign it?
Before they do?
Yeah.
I've never seen a contract as good as this. From our point of view, NDOT must not like consultants. I mean, everything I would have dreamed about putting in for the benefit of the LPA, which is us, yeah, it's in there. Ragu, it's in there.
This isn't their first rodeo.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm sure Neff's fine with it too, but I mean, it's pretty protective of our interest.
And so
They've given us our blessing to do that, if that's
it's
okay
fine
with
for
you
us to
judges.
sign before they do. All right.
I
So
move we signed the contract with Beam Longus and Neff for
Three signatures.
inspection for the period of
It's 18 months.
18 months. They've served us well for many years, haven't they?
They have.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. We'll have this for you in a minute. Okay, so I think thanks a lot, Brandon.
Thank you.
We've taken care of the opioid funds, the Hagerstown Proclamation, and the letter. Let's go on to the fairgrounds donation. Brad, you want to
So
What's
the
next, I guess?
company that wanted to donate the gazebo for the naming rights for the show arena went to the board Monday. They rejected our counter offer of paying for the painting. They thought the painting was very excessive bid. So they came back to us and said the original offer is still on the table. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve their original offer of donating the gazebo, the stone to put it on, and in return for not 5 years naming rights to the show arena.
That's fine.
As long as we can get Ron to get the contract put
Okay,
together,
thank
they
you.
pay for the sign, that we have to approve the design of those signs and all that. So,
Right.
Did they clarify the naming rights to the gazebo?
they did not, but my opinion is that we can't take a naming rights and say we're going to sell the naming rights of their donation of a gazebo.
Oh,
I don't think that's appropriate.
We could do that, but
It ought to be clarified in the agreement, I think.
it'll need to be spelled out. So your suggestion is that they put a sign on the gazebo as well?
I offered to that to them. I think it's only appropriate that they have a sign there. And even if it's just donated by, and that stays there, that's not really a naming
Yeah,
right.
let's just do that, because it's not a naming right.
Yeah, it's just donated by, and then just their names on it. That way, in 5 years, if this when the then maybe we could sell the naming rights of the gazebo. But I think at least should stand on there for at least the term of their naming rights of the
And I
show.
like the idea of just donated by
Yeah.
a small
Right.
sign.
But it should be
We've obviously sold
clarified.
naming rights to donated structures. But the question is how quickly and how, after
Thank you.
donation you do that. I agree.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I do too.
Yeah, I think they may find that their donation is going to be larger than what they expect right now before they're done.
Who's that?
You know,
Fine now.
the cost of the gazebo plus the installation of the gazebo could be higher than what they expect.
Just a matter of suggestion.
Well,
And
I think what you're suggesting
State Board
is
of Accounts part.
they're just paying for the stone.
They're paying for the stone, and
I
then
think just.
we are going
The
to.
installation is up to us.
Yeah, we'll do the excavating part, because we haven't picked an
Oh.
exact location of where it's going yet.
Correct.
So myself, Brad, Haley, you guys, where we can go out there and
And decide where.
decide.
Yeah.
I talked to Steve briefly this morning about it, and there is some questions about flooding
Oh,
in one of the
yeah.
locations.
Serious
So we want to look at that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So location will be up to us.
Yes.
They'll pay to put down a load of stone. to
Yeah,
the base.
the base. They'll do.
Okay, because we'll probably have to have some drainage expense. That's what my concern was.
Potentially,
Before we
potentially.
can place it in a central location on the fairgrounds is where some drainage issues exist. You know, if they were to put it on the west side of the carnival area, there wouldn't be a problem. But that's not where we want it. We want it where there are drainage issues.
Yeah, and Steve, can you address some concerns about the drainage where we're thinking about putting?
Yeah, I think, obviously, that to me is the best place to put it, but I do want to meet with Brad, not Brad.
Brad Terhar.
Brad Terhar, Brad T. Just to see what his opinion is, the extent of that drainage area and the flooding that occurs there, and then is there something we can do to mitigate it?
I'm sure Gordon would be willing to look at
And
it.
shoot some elevations.
It's very
But
good.
I think that's the best place for it, just because of the location with the vendors that set up for the fair and so on and so forth. And, you know, it's kind of centrally located around that activity area. But I just do want to confirm with Brad T before we commit to that.
Yeah, let's do that, and we'll find a place, but essentially what we're saying, I think if I can summarize, they're gonna gift to the county this gazebo.
It's a 16 by 32 composite with a metal roof, white.
And we're gonna accept that as their payment for a 5-year naming rights to the livestock show arena. They will be responsible to design signage with our approval, so they'll have to submit that for our approval. and then pay for the signs and the installation of those signs on that structure. And then I think we just approved a small plaque of some kind that says donated by on the gazebo.
It was worth asking for more, but we
It
certainly
was.
don't want them to feel.
Painting the,
We are not now.
No.
We asked them to consider a payment that would cover the cost of painting. It's not the highest priority.
painting's not going to be an issue.
We're not going to paint it, and they.
5-year naming
don't
rights
paint it.
for livestock arena,
Livestock show arena.
design for signage to be approved,
Correct.
and then donating the gazebo, and we'll have no signage indicating the source of the donation.
Right. And the contract should stipulate that we have to approve the signage, but
Right.
then they pay for it and pay for installation.
And that they will pay for the donation sign for the gazebo as well?
Correct.
I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah, that's minimal, so.
Yeah, that won't be nearly as costly as the show arena sign.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
Because they'll
depending on
want-
what kind of sign they want. I have no
Sure.
idea what they want. or
I would hope they would want
size-wise.
a very visible sign from.
Why did, I have no idea. I mean, I think that's why we can work that out.
I
So,
hope they weren't offended by our coming back and asking for more.
I was not at the board meeting, but I spoke to a member after, and he didn't indicate that they were. But
Okay.
yeah.
Because that is a generous and valuable addition to the fairgrounds, and I hope that was conveyed, how grateful we are for that valuable addition.
Yeah, and I think once we vote, and we could probably publicly announce who this is.
Sure.
Stony Creek, what is it?
Oh, the name of the gazebo
Ventures
company.
LLC.
They're a local company that make these. I think I'm trying to say that.
So let's get a motion and a second on the floor to approve.
Make a motion that we approve this, the gazebo being donated in return for gaming rights to the show.
Second,
We
with
have a
Brad,
motion and a second. Any further discussion?
would you like to reveal the name of the generous
I
donor?
think he wants us to vote.
Yeah, I think we
first.
should vote first.
Oh, okay.
So, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Drum roll, please. And the name of the
It is Farm
company
Bureau.
And our thanks to them.
Yeah, I know.
We appreciate their support.
I missed the connection. What is Farm Bureau?
It's the Farm Bureau Association that's sponsoring the building
They're
of the
purchasing the
gazebo.
naming rights of the
It's
show
not-
arena. No, they're just.
That's the company that's making it.
Making it,
Yeah, it's Farm Bureau.
Farm Bureau is going to buy that from that company. They're going to give it
That
to
opens a whole
us.
new can of worms. What Farm Bureau?
It's not the insurance company, it's the
Indiana.
association.
But it's Wayne County.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Wayne County's Farm Bureau.
Association.
We'll get
to the name.
We'll get the proper.
Yeah, I'm a member, and you have to own farmland, active production farmland in order to be a member. So this is a farmers nonprofit association that advances the interests of those who are engaged in active production agriculture.
Yeah, and since January, they've been very much engaged with me, wanting to do something at the fairgrounds. I mean, they approached me on this, I didn't approach them.
They've been a significant partner for years.
Yeah.
and
It's Wayne
it's
County Farm
supported-
Bureau Cooperative Association.
No, not the co-op, no.
Okay.
Farm Bureau Association, Wayne County Farm Bureau Association.
But they've been very generous and
Absolutely.
wanted to do something. I mean, they were determined to help improve the fairgrounds. So,
Okay.
thank you to them.
Absolutely.
I can find it.
Absolutely, it's a wonderful gift.
All
And I
right.
think this will be a great asset to public safety too, because we have lost children on occasion, and you know,
Every year.
for.
I mean, we found them. I mean,
Yeah, right.
they're not still wandering around the fairgrounds,
But what a great
say
place for them to know to
The
go.
parents have become separated from their children.
Right.
Parents are involved.
Right.
Okay, let's move on. Let's go ahead and do the claims.
I'm 99.9% sure that's the right.
I'll find it. I'll know not to use the one I find that says
No,
co-op.
co-op is No more, yeah. And it's not insurance, although I think Farm Bureau Insurance is a good candidate for naming rights sponsorship. Okay, move for approval of regular claims dated August 17th. A small claim from the BMV. The local income tax claims dated August 15th. Veterans service claims dated August 15th. Additional regular claims dated August 16th. Move for approval of all of the above.
We have a motion and a second to approve payment of the claims. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
I have an additional claim that is in a sealed document from the courts, Wayne Circuit Court. Move for approval of that additional claim.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the sealed claim. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then do you have the minutes from last week?
Yes, I wanted to talk to you about this because I want to make sure that I am reading the minutes correctly to recommend a small correction on page 3, line 8, where the paragraph begins, "The grant process needs to be more streamlined by getting pertinent information." I would rather we change that paragraph to begin reading by changing it to, "Mark Holscher recommended the grant process needs to be more streamlined." Because the way it reads now, it's as though this is a finding of fact. And I don't think that we have engaged in the finding of that fact, but it was indeed
Part
a
of the discussion.
recommendation by an elected official. Is that an agreed upon change?
I'm fine with that.
Because
Brad?
as it stands, it reads as a fact.
Let's, do you want a vote on the change to the minutes?
I'd be
You
more
wanna just
comfortable
approve it?
because,
That's
you know,
correct.
if it's just a typo, I make
Okay.
that change with Bobby, but
I'll-
this is a substantive
I'll make a
change.
motion that we make that change that you suggested.
Second.
Bobby, did you get that?
I marked this up because we can sign it this afternoon if you could make that change.
Yep. Okay. And then you want to approve, make a motion to approve the minutes with that change?
After we vote on the changes.
Right, so motion to make that change. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Move for approval of the minutes as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of approving the minutes as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I make that change by myself.
Mr. Higginbotham.
All the other ones.
Okay, so back to my list. You have before you an
This is just-
updated version of the grant application
Oh,
process
yeah.
forms. And if you want to put that in front of you. I met with Mark and I made a couple of changes to this since the last time you folks met and approved those changes before. So the grant application procedure, I formatted a little bit different. I made the font bigger. And then I bolded out what is to be done before and what is to be done after the grant request is approved, and then if they receive the grant, what they're to do afterwards. We've also highlighted the form that they need to fill out, and that's why there's a yellow highlight. It identifies what that form title is, and then that form will be attached to this document when it's on our portal. So they'll come up and they'll see this, and there'll be several attachments to this procedure application. And then on page, go ahead.
So we're saying here that we want them to complete the grant application and the request to apply for the grant and submit that as a package.
Yep.
However, that implies that they have to fill out the whole grant application before they know whether we're going to allow them to apply for the grant.
Yeah.
Which seems to be a little bit of a,
Well, and the purpose of that is so that you get the whole story.
We know if they're going to want
And I
request
understand
employees
that, yeah.
or.
But reality,
It gives you the information prior to them coming to make the request so that you have an opportunity to ask questions.
and I understand that part. However, having completed many grant applications, to put me through that lengthy process without having some awareness of whether you're inclined to allow me to apply for it or not seems like we're putting the cart before the horse.
commissioners are going to need heavy security if this goes through like that.
I just, and I don't, this may be exactly the way it's been written all along.
It has
for all I
been.
know. So
That's not
Really?
changed.
I just,
And looking back at the times that you've had department heads and elected officials before you, sometimes the information is a bit sketchy.
yes.
And you leave with questions, and so the intent is that so you get the big picture before you make this determination to approve it.
But why wouldn't you also have the grant application and the way that I thought the process worked now? And that is, if there's a timeline that they have to go ahead and apply, they apply, and then they come and get ratification from the commissioners, because you can't ratify something that doesn't exist. So you ought to have, certainly the way I thought we were doing, you ought to have that document in existence so you can ask questions on it. I guess I'm missing something.
Yeah.
Well, it's I think, it's a matter of detail. You know,
Well, the budget you may not have, because that may be a function of the award
right,
itself.
and this language kind of calls for a completed budget that is, you know, what the grantor requires and what we require. We're, I think, looking for a little wiggle room between the two. That's, I think, all Jeff is arguing.
Ideally, I think we would have a conversation with whoever's interested in applying for a grant. They would give us the broad outlines. This is how much I might be able to receive. This is how it's going to work. I'd like to be able to apply for that. Are there any objections? And then we can say, no objections at the moment. Obviously, the devil's in the details, but tentatively, we go ahead and complete the application. We're inclined to approve it, but we need to see the final details before we can.
Sometimes
give you
the
final
problem comes
permission.
is timing.
And I understand that too.
And so that's why.
And that's what Ron was getting at.
That's
is-
why
Well,
you saw
and I
that.
think, I think Steve's right. There probably needs to be a little lecturing going on as to the importance of the process. But do we have a feel for how many of our grants are renewals versus cold calls? And I realize it's probably a bad time to ask with all the federal monies.
Yeah, I would say, generally speaking, more than half of them are renewals.
So even then, they can give us their like, prior year's budget and
Here's what we've
recognizing
been
that the amount they
doing.
may get this year would be a function of A, how many others applied, and B, how much,
Exactly.
how big the pot is to begin with.
Exactly.
It's been heavily renewals, but going forward, it will be fewer.
I can
How's that?
I can see that.
Cause
Well, I'm
some
just saying that those are
movement.
factors that, I don't think you want to reward procrastination. I mean, for me to say that is hypocrisy.
Well, but you're exactly right.
But my profession is.
Yeah, no, we don't want you to come at the last minute. We want want you to start the process as early as you possibly can. So,
Because one of the last grants that you've seen, it was received, the application date was open in June of '23.
it was 3 weeks before we got it.
Yeah.
And I understand, but they also had already applied before we got wind of it. So I'm trying to think of a way with as little work as possible to get them to talk to us about the possibilities of applying for a grant.
How about in the department head meeting or the elected official meeting that they,
Well,
How about leaving it the way it's got to be?
how they got it and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this grant, and
and
informally.
this is going to be on the agenda.
Right,
If we have to-
for next week.
Yeah, for next
So
week.
let's leave it and hear comments from the department heads and elected officials, but just being aware that we're asking people to go through an enormous amount of work
Well, I mean,
with still the potential.
Are you adding the word grant application and the request to apply for grant, or the yellow is the new?
It's already,
No,
the
the yellow's already there. I just bolded it out so that they're ensured that they,
What's the new verbiage?
down, starting in number 3, the underline.
Oh, new is
The
underlined.
only new verbiage is a reimbursement grant or requires a cash match.
And
That's the only thing that's
Before,
new there.
yeah, before we only required to go to council if it was personnel.
Right.
But now if it's a reimbursement grant, where's the money coming from up front? Or if it requires a cash match, where's the money
Right.
coming from? So council,
Absolutely.
that's why it was added. And that
Well,
was,
I mean, if I'm a department head and playing the devil's advocate, it says grant application, I can provide you with my request to apply, I can provide you with a copy of it. It doesn't say completed grant application.
well, and
I
that's
mean,
a good point.
That'll tell you some
Sure.
some
What-
things.
Well, no, it says in point number 1, the grant application must be completed and
Okay,
signed
I'm
by
looking
the
at
office holder.
3.
You're looking at number 3.
And then a completed grant application as well as the request for grant.
Okay, never mind, never mind.
Yeah, we covered it.
So, but there's the reason why it's that way, because historically, over the last couple of years,
And I get it.
commissioners, you didn't seem to get the full picture. And if you didn't have it before you to know what questions, I'm not saying you don't know what questions to ask, but you didn't know what questions to ask on certain grants.
Sketchy.
And then by the time it came back to you, you realized, well, hey, this has got more employees than we didn't realize. So,
On this, you're getting ready to adopt this.
well, that's what we're
No,
talking
we're not
about.
going to do
Right, I know
it
Not
today.
today.
We're going to get input from
Okay.
the elected officials.
There is a form that I gave Steve.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that.
Okay.
It's on here.
I'm still on the front page right now, so.
Well, okay.
It's the back page.
yeah.
Well, there's another form I gave Steve.
I've got them both.
Go ahead.
Actually, I got 3 of them.
Right.
Go ahead.
So number 3, the underline is the change that Mark has requested be put in there. Number 4, all grants require a budget. And what Mark has requested, and I need to add this, so there'll be a highlighted title in there of what form he is requesting. And that is this form, so that he has a budget form of what the
Okay.
grant is applicable to, as well as if there's personnel added. And so
That's-
these forms are identified by form number.
And that puts it on a county format,
Yeah.
which may be different from what the grant
It
requires.
is, but I think this would be helpful when you're discerning between
absolutely.
independent contractors and employees.
No, I agree.
And you'll give them 1779, Form 1779.
Yeah, on that number 4 highlighted would be budget form number 1 and county form 144. And those would be attachments on the portal.
But I think there is a great need to understand the IRS guidelines for contract.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
then-
think you're going to get that indoctrinated at the
Yeah, you're not gonna
department
get-
level,
But
to a
we-
comfort level, I would feel. I mean, it's still a slippery slope, and I've been following it pretty closely.
And so that's why, remember the last time we saw this, that there was that attachment to this, there was IRS general guideline, is to
Right.
make the applicant think, hey, do I have an employee And then if they have a question, then they need to,
Well, I'm working on a template for the health department, which should have usage beyond the health department. And the conventional wisdom in all the articles I've been reading says, is that a deal maker? No, but it's better to have a template that expresses the party's intention going in, and it's not totally absurd on its face. You know, I mean, the ability to control is the key point.
Right.
And that's a slippery slope.
Okay.
and then on number 6, again, we just added that reimbursement or require cash match. And then number 7, the submitted grant application must show that the county auditor address and, for notices and payments. And then after the grant is awarded, we added that form that Mark is requesting, and that's that grant information request for auditor. Remember, that's that form I showed you last time.
Is that the last page here?
I don't have it attached to this one. It's the one you got last week. And I didn't put it there because I didn't change it.
Okay.
But it's information that if it's awarded, Mark needs to be able to track it, and have the award numbers and
Okay.
who's responsible and that type of thing.
Have we determined that the only federal ID number that the county has is that which is in his office?
Yes.
Yes, I think that's true. I hope that's true.
Well, there was another one.
I know, yeah.
Some
But
entity that I didn't know.
I think we just have the one federal ID, which should be reflected on all.
I have a question about number 6.
6, okay?
This kind of implies that the commissioners may deny applications for these and only these reasons.
Well, then it goes on to the next one. Commissioners and council may approve or deny that for grants that are reimbursement, match, or for personal services. The top line, council's not involved in.
Well, but the commissioners may deny the application for policy reasons. I mean, what if
Well,
they,
that's not what this says. It says grant applications that are for supplies, other services, charges, and capital purchases. You have an opportunity, if it's a capital purchase that you don't think is necessary, you can deny it. Let's say they want to buy 10 widgets, and you don't think 10 widgets fit your policies, then you say, no, we're not going to apply for that.
but we also could deny the application if, a department wants to study the existence of life on other planets.
Exactly, and so that would fall under other services and charges. I assume that would be a contractual line item in that grant application. And if it is to do study of celestial beings, you can say that's not appropriate, and you deny it.
I don't know, it just sounds awfully,
Well,
I
these
mean,
are
we
what-
could deny the application for any reason, not just those 3.
Well, but when they apply for the grant, it falls under one of these categories, and that's what this is about.
And I think you're trying to make the distinction there in number 6, the responsibilities of the commissioners versus council.
Correct.
In denying.
But it says and. Now, my concern was commissioners might want to, if the commissioners were to veto a grant, they can't be run by a department head going to council, can
Well, I don't think they could, so you think, so how you
It's big.
how you think that should be worded?
Well, what do you do with the grants that don't have to go to council?
They have to go to
They have
commissioners.
to go to
Well,
commissioners.
go to commissioners, but there are several grants after it goes to commissioners that doesn't go to council.
Correct.
Right.
And
they?
that's
Well,
what-
they were, now I think everything is going to
Well, council gets to see it.
see it, yeah.
But they didn't
Whether they
really-
act on it.
Yeah.
They don't
have to
necessarily
act on
have any authority over
it.
it.
Right.
Right.
So anything, the commissioners could deny any grant application.
Correct.
The
It
way
comes here
I'm
first.
Understanding that. Council only if it has a financial implication or personnel.
Like the grant comes to you first, and if it's a personnel thing, you don't think that it fits our policy, you can deny it, and council never sees it. They'll never get to act on it because you turned it down.
Okay, we may need to have no problem in taking this forward to get other input, but that point needs some clarification maybe.
I mean, you could just add at the end, or for reimbursement cash flow match too. And not have, and you can have that second line, but, because basically what I think Marion's trying to say, we can approve or deny all grants regardless of whether it is,
Reimbursement cash match.
yeah, whether it's
Right, I'd like to-
personnel, whatever, it doesn't matter.
I'd like to end number 6, first sentence, with the commissioners may approve or deny the application for all grants, period.
Period.
So it's,
Well-
there's not a loophole in
But
there.
the purpose of this is to make sure that the applicant knows if it's approved by commissioners, you got
It's still
another,
gotta go to
you got
council.
another step to go to.
I guess
And
then
then
you
say
could
the
say,
council must approve or deny
Well,
application.
I'll tell you what, let's do. You know, I'll send this to you as a Word document. You can make your changes.
We'll do that. Let's move on.
I'll take a look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
your input would be valuable as well, Ron.
and
Okay,
when you start specifying,
keep going.
And that's the only changes. That's it.
Okay.
you know, one thing we could do to just is have a loophole clause, you know, commissioners hold the right to consider exceptions under extraordinary circumstances on a case-by-case basis.
I don't think you want to do that. I think you don't want a loophole. Because-
Exceptions to what?
Uh,
This is a procedure.
Yeah, it's not
Your
a-
overarching policy would allow you to waive
Yeah.
procedural
Right.
here's
irregularities.
your
And it
procedure,
doesn't
and
have to
then if
be in
it
there
doesn't meet
because
that procedures,
we always can make it
waive it at that point. I don't think we need to make a statement in there.
Because the state of Indiana sometimes gives you an impossible deadline.
I'm hearing that more.
I agree with that. But you can't make all those, when I polled all the offices that apply for grants, it was across the board.
Right.
And so you can't make a policy for a grant that is due in 1 week after it's announced. It's up to you guys to make that
Make an
determination,
exception.
whether they're procrastinating. You know, if you get a grant notice that, hey, we're gonna come up with something, we're gonna have a grant application open up in September 1st, then the department head needs to be getting prepared to fill that thing out. And don't wait till the very last day, because you guys gotta be in the loop.
But I don't want Wayne County to be denied the opportunity for an extraordinary grant just because it's our policy. They have to apply 7 days in advance, and the state of Indiana has such a short.
But at the end of the day, it's still your call. It's
Yeah,
not
no,
their-
but if a department had said, boy, I sure would like to have that $6 million, but the commissioners say that their deadline is already passed.
Well, I think.
You see where I'm coming
I think if
from?
there's a $6 million grant, it's
But
gonna be
we
longer.
can make exceptions to any kind of rule.
Absolutely.
But I think we need to let them know that, even if it's verbal.
And there will be discussion on this.
You see where I'm coming from? I mean, there are some people that play by the book.
I don't deny what she's saying, I just don't think it should be in writing
I
in
don't
a
either.
policy.
About a waiver, but I kind of like the ending the sentence right bang there. We'll talk about that.
Right, yeah.
I think that needs to be clearly stated, that the commissioners need to approve application for a grant.
Start enumerating, it just opens up a can of worms.
And again, that's nothing that's new to this. That's not the part of this that he's changed.
But they haven't heard.
It's been in
So-
existence since
Well,
2019.
Again, it goes
Yes.
back to enforcement.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter if you have a policy,
It
if it's not
does.
enforced,
That's
it
exactly
doesn't matter.
When it comes to you guys, you need to ask the questions. If you don't ask the questions, you're not gonna get the answers.
Right, okay. What else have you got?
So, okay, I'm gonna send you a
Send
document.
this
And then
electronically, we're gonna.
You're gonna look at it, make some comments, and then if you can get those back before our next meeting so I can incorporate those.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We can do that, because I want this to be on the agenda
Right.
for the meeting with elected officials and department heads.
And then, remember last week I indicated to you that there'd been a request to do a holiday dinner, and we would like to do that dinner on the 13th. That is a Wednesday.
December 13th.
December 13th. and that's halfway between Thanksgiving and Christmas. The 13th was chosen so the commissioners are here and can participate. I would suggest that day that your meeting be held probably down in the Pianaboa room, and then, because this room needs to be set up for the meeting.
For the meal, okay.
And so the suggestion is the 13th of December.
And that's the second
Yes, second.
Wednesday?
And that would be
Okay.
better than workshop day. Did we ever talk about having a workshop day for the convenience of,
That would be the 20th, which is,
They don't come in until later.
right, they don't come in until 6
Yeah,
o'clock.
so we can move it anyway. So they either have to hang around and come back. So if they want to come, they can come on the 13th.
Well, clearly they'll be invited.
Maybe, depends on how budget goes.
Steve,
oh,
they will be invited.
Oh, okay, well,
Do you want to
fine.
recant that? Just remind people you were joking about
I was
that.
just joking.
No, you weren't.
So, everybody okay with the
sure.
13th?
Just think of our friends and councilmen.
Okay. What else?
And then we've solicited a date for our county auction, which is September 30th. We usually go into October, but they didn't have any dates available, and I hate
The
to.
auctioneer did.
Correct.
Okay. Who's,
Walter Hawkins is who we use. This is for a service.
Okay.
They charge 10% of the proceeds for their expenses, and then advertising is up to $300. It goes in the Palladium, Western Wayne News, on the internet, on their calendar, and a yard sign posted out. It's usually posted out where it says auction today.
okay.
What time does that start?
It's 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock on September 30th, and that's a Saturday.
Ron, I was thinking the other day, if we have police vehicles that are going to be auctioned, is it possible to do an auction just for Wayne County police agencies? Where they're the only qualified bidder, where we could sell the car with the lights and with whatever
Just for Wayne County, what?
Wayne County police agencies that might need cars.
Or would you expand that to other counties? Because
Well, I think you could have a limited auction for that purpose. That way it relieves either the purchaser or the seller, if they really want confidence of the restricted vehicle
Right.
amenities, primarily color and decal. We had those removed before we put them in the auction. I thought we
We
did.
do
That's
now.
a safer measure, because the statute just says they have to be removed.
And we used to paint them too, because the brown was a statutory color, but now we get different colored cars. We hardly ever get brown ones.
I think we could do that, yeah, just those vehicles.
And it just occurred to me, I don't have any plans to do it, but
Well, I think
did
that's
hear-
something you could
I heard
probably
from
take a look at the
one of the
fleet management
smaller,
committee, take a look at it.
yeah,
You look at Milton and Dublin or
exactly.
Fountain City, I mean, they
Pretty
have a
generous.
need that they can't go out and buy a new
Greensboro.
vehicle,
Right.
so.
Historically, we've been pretty generous. I mean, we let our dare van go down to Union County. We had to kind of follow up down there because they were supposed to take the dare. And that was not so much because of its statutory law enforcement as much as it was a copyright issue, I think.
And they
Proprietary issue.
Yeah,
so.
they were a member, that's the right term here. So anyway, let's look at that a little bit. Talk
I think it's a good idea
see
to
if
help
it's a
out our partners and-
possibility.
Yeah, so they're not
Other
having to
communities.
bid against civilians.
Right. And that, the equipment that a lot of times,
We
just
we
junk it because
Yeah.
it doesn't fit any of the cars that we have left.
Right.
This way, it could be a package.
They could junk it if they can't use it.
Exactly. So we'll maybe talk to Randy and a few other police agencies and see if that might be.
And we might
Fee
want to
would be,
extend that to fire agency, because I know there's been a need for, in the past, some of these volunteer fire departments that
Yeah.
need a chief's vehicle
Right.
that they can maybe do something with the lights. Some of those lights can put, blue lights on it instead of red.
Okay. So you think it would be legal to limit who can?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're the disposing agent. You can dispose of it, and I think you have the flexibility, because you're basically talking about doing it to another government unit. So that's pretty, you can determine what, if
Okay.
any, consideration you're getting for it.
Okay.
I guess I would think it ought to have some input from the fleet management committee. So
Oh, sure.
the process is coordinated.
And especially in terms of, is this a car we can use in another department?
Yeah, don't overlook the
Right.
obvious users.
Right. Okay. All right, Steve. Sorry, got sidetracked there.
And private police departments such as Reed, because they're popping up all over.
I doubt that Reed's going to want to buy a used vehicle.
But-
I guess
We might want to buy used ones from
Yeah, we
them.
might be buying one of theirs.
We might want to see that.
But, I mean, there are other private police departments are becoming more commonplace in Indiana.
Okay, Steve, you got anything else?
Yeah, I
Wanna
got
get into
parking. Yeah.
Okay.
So you have before you a sheet. And remember last week we talked about the bullet points that we want to point out to elected officials and department head meeting next week about the issues that we face, and just want to get their input on how we've addressed those. But then I also told you that I would attempt to make some sort of number assignments to the different lots. So this sheet that you have there's a couple of premises that this was based upon. First of all, generally the people who work in the basement are assigned to
This was it.
yeah.
Yeah, the spreadsheet.
The people who work in the basement of the annex are generally assigned to the bank lot because they have access through the east door. And then because the bank lot does not hold enough spaces based upon our salary ordinance of who's in this building, and some people have to be assigned to this lot. Now, what's it doesn't take into consideration is that we've got, I know there's people from the courthouse that park over here. So, but we will address that when we start looking at the courthouse parking situation.
Can't we look at it at the same time?
Well, I think they're two separate issues, because at the end of the day, the courthouse, I think, those parking assignments will not be in this lot. They're going to be on 4th Street, and they're going to be on the west parking lot.
Except for some judges and some elected officials. We need to know who they are, how many there are.
The only elected official from the courthouse that's in this lot is the clerk. The clerk has one spot, and commissioners approved that spot several years ago because of a money issue. I don't know what the scenario was, but she was approved the space in this lot. I think from a security standpoint, you're going to get you will have and have had in the past that judges are not assigned a spot. And so we know that they're going to park wherever. So,
Okay.
now,
But we need to know how many spots we have to allocate.
but you don't want to allocate a spot for a judge because they're going to move. And so they may end up parking in one of the public spots. I think you're going to get pushback from a couple of judges of having an assigned spot.
However, having said that, when we're talking about assigning a spot, we're really talking about, for, in most cases, assigning a parking lot, right? So
A parking lot, but then.
so could we not assign the judges
Sure.
however many parking lots
Sure.
we want to?
Yep.
And that if we have spaces.
If you have
available,
spaces.
I wouldn't see why we wouldn't give them a spot in every parking
Okay.
lot. And we just keep track of it that way. The key is, I think, to know that every employee has an assigned spot, and then how many.
Assigned lot.
Assigned
Lot.
spot in a lot, and that then there are enough spaces left to assign them to public parking. customer parking, however we want to, whatever we want to call those.
I think, back to the original question about you want to see that parking plan first, I'm suggesting you don't want to assign anybody from the courthouse in this lot.
Which
The only
is
place
fine.
The only place you'd assign them, but and if you go from that premise, then it doesn't make any difference what we do with this lot.
And so if we go from that premise, why can't we do it now?
We can, but it's
Okay,
what.
let's do it.
I thought you wanted something a little more urgent for this lot.
Oh,
If you don't, then, okay,
I'd rather do it
Well, let's-
comprehensively.
okay.
Let's do it. I want to be able to talk to the elected officials and the department heads about our policy and have some assurance that we've got enough spaces to go around. We don't necessarily by next Wednesday when we have that meeting need to have everybody's assignment, but we need to know that we've got enough spaces.
Well, you do have enough spaces. Again, if you take the employees from the courthouse and assign them to X number of spots on the 4th Street parking lot and X number of spots in the west lot, you've got enough spaces.
So can we do that?
Yeah.
Can we do
The west
that
lot's the health
tomorrow?
lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that right away.
And include the
Well-
health department as
I
well.
guess for the assignment though, I think it's a little deeper because of the quirks of, I think
I
we need,
understand.
before I do this for next Wednesday, I think you need feedback from the courts
No, I agree
on
with
how
that,
far
too.
does it extend down their employee chain of who, because I can tell you, there's court employees who will park in 4th Street and that may not be where you want them based upon the numbers of where they should go. I think it's a bigger issue.
And regarding the judges, I mean, it's not just the 4 we always think of, but there's
Oh,
a
that's
couple of
right.
magistrates,
Yep,
2
sure.
magistrates.
Yep.
So that's 6 judges that need access to 3 parking areas, say?
Well, that was Jeff's suggestion.
It's a suggestion.
But I don't want to assign the judges to 18 parking spots.
I think it's just as easy to just tell the judge you can park wherever you want to.
See, that's what
But we
I,
need to account for that.
well, my thinking is that they would park in the public designated spots
Yeah.
because there'll be X number of public spots in each parking space. in
But
each
if we
parking
don't
lot.
account for that, we're going to come up short. So my point is, instead of accounting for 18 judges' spots, we should just account for 6, so that we know
Well,
that there are going to be
my-
6 public parking spots
My
taken every
suggestion to
day.
that would be though, I would say we need input from the courts first because they may think that bailiff needs a spot too. I've just been through this and I don't think you want to start assigning their bailiffs to a lot without talking to the judges first.
Okay, and there could be somebody who carries cash
Yep.
from the clerk's office that might need
Okay,
a
so,
4th Street
so
spot.
again, to wrap this up, we put that aside for the moment.
Or you put it aside.
The policy is what we need to have in place by next Wednesday if possible. If not, we'll take it off the agenda and we'll,
Well,
No, I think we need to do it
I
next
think you have some policy concepts because you're going to want their, there's no
week. We
use.
want their input.
Yeah, you
So-
want your input first.
so is there a document? We reviewed one kind of last week that has some bullet points.
Yeah.
Should that be developed into a document, or do you think that's, the bullet points are adequate to prompt discussion?
I think the bullet points are adequate to prompt discussion.
Okay.
And get their input, and then we can tweak it, and then could develop the policy based off that.
Rather than us saying, here's our policy, do you have any?
No, I don't want to,
Yeah.
My thought
say that.
was
I want
that-
to say, here's the starting point for conversation.
Right, my thought was that they see the questions that we've always had, and let them respond to what,
And how do we enforce this,
Yeah.
which being the stumbling block that has always stopped implementation in the past, I believe.
and
So-
and I think, you know, that's where you stress to the department of elected officials that, you know, we're relying on you.
We need your help.
Yeah, and see what they say to you.
Okay.
Yeah, and apparently, this was in the paper, so we've gotten some, you all saw the letter that we received
Yeah.
from a concerned citizen about the
Yes.
parking, so.
Yes.
Which, the point they make in the letters,
It's
Valid.
absolutely
Very valid.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, which,
What was that point? I didn't see the letter.
that there's not enough parking for the public, essentially. And so, how much is enough? How many spaces do we need to reserve? Is that fluid? Obviously, there's more people that need to access the buildings either during tax season, and even during tax season, it's pretty limited. It's right before the taxes are due. But then also during court, when there's a trial, the parking lots fill up. When there's a jury call, the parking lots fill up.
Again, it goes back to it's important to have available spaces for the public to come to the public courthouse and its building. It's equally important to have our employees have safe, good parking
And access to the building.
and access.
And so having a temporary process for employees who are, they break their leg or something and they need access to temporarily handicapped kind of parking that's closer to the building, but also recognizing that we need to designate a certain number of spaces. We need to work on that for public parking. And then, we've already taken some steps on, or I have ideas on moving the county-owned vehicles out of our parking lots so that a person's personal car and their county car are not both parked in the same lot. And then we're adding 6 more spaces to the south lot, so I think that will help. So I think we're on the right track. We just need to get some input and then finalize this in the next 30 to 60 days if we can.
30.
Let's shoot for 30 and be happy. if
I mean, it's only been
60.
16 years, so I guess
what's another 30 days?
I know, but
It's
We
been,
want to do it right.
it's been
It's-
since
it's not-
1978, Brad.
it's not a hard
It's been
concept.
since
Corporations do this all the
1978.
time. And they don't spend their board meetings for 4 hours talking about parking, so that's my point.
Okay, that was not 4 hours by my official.
Oh, I'm
calendar.
accumulation
Oh,
since
overtime,
I've been on
okay.
commissioners.
I just want to apologize. I have to leave at 2 o'clock today. My apologies.
Understand.
So I just have one request that's, and that is that we are our calendar's moving fast on opting into Senate Enrolled Act 4.
Yep, start
I
tonight.
just want to clarify that
Start
we
tonight.
will address that next Wednesday, right?
if not tonight.
I would just rather be present when we vote to opt in.
You are more than welcome to be present tonight.
I cannot be.
There is some sense that we ought to do it tonight. As long as we get council's approval tonight, then I think we can defer until next week for the opt-in, but we want them to approve a budget because the budget has to go in with the opting-in document.
But we still can opt in next Wednesday.
That's what I just said. As long as we get council's approval
Oh, I sure hope
tonight,
so.
then we can opt in next week, and I
Oh.
don't have any objection to doing that.
Okay, I was just hoping we wouldn't have to vote tonight.
You okay with that, Brad?
You'll be here
Taking the
next
opt-in
Wednesday?
vote next Wednesday, so that.
Yeah,
Mary
I
will be
mean,
here.
I-
She won't be here for the workshop tonight.
I guess. I mean, semantics, right? I mean, if they approve it, then,
Exactly.
but I personally, I'd rather approve it when they do, so that's done. And
I would too, but I'm willing to make this,
If I was
It's happened
confident that
forever.
that we'd opt in tonight without my vote, we just haven't discussed this at all, and I just want to make sure we opt in.
I think I've made my position perfectly clear.
And I've made mine too, as long
I
as,
just haven't really heard that.
If the budget meets council's approval, then we will opt in. If it doesn't meet council's approval, us opting in is meaningless because it has to have the approved budget attached to it.
Well, we could
I'll still
cave on
vote
the
for it.
budget. We could cave in on the budget. I mean, there has to be, I mean,
I don't know what that means.
I mean,
yeah,
if they
I think
don't
we came in
approve,
on the budget.
if they don't approve what the health department recommends,
Then why opt in?
it's better to have a substandard budget than to not opt in.
Well, if they don't approve the budget, there is no budget.
You can't do that because it's got to go to the state for their approval.
I know it, so the health department would have to have emergency sessions to come up with an alternative budget.
They're going to meet tomorrow.
Right.
Health board meets
Well, I
tomorrow.
mean,
They'll
and
work
back
it out
and forth, and then the
tomorrow.
council would have to.
You're talking about
agree.
hypotheticals. The
Well, I mean, it's
council's
that
gonna approve-
important that-
Council is going to approve their budget tonight.
Hopefully.
I'm confident that council will approve a budget tonight that the health department will either endorse tomorrow or have a special meeting to approve it.
Well, then one thing that could expedite all of this is that if we opt in today instead of tonight, I don't see any objection to that. What is wrong with us opting in?
Opting in subject to council approving
Right,
the
I
budget.
move that we opt in subject to council's approval of the budget.
You okay with that?
No. I want to hear what's good. Brad Barrett, Dr. Jot Moore is going to be there tonight. I think it's going to be valuable information
I do
that
too.
I want to hear.
See, that's what you've always said, which makes me really, really nervous. What more do you need to know?
I want to hear from Dr. Barrett and Dr. Jot.
Dr. Barrett sponsored SB4.
The timing that you're so concerned of, we have next week to make a final decision. We've always said we want to hear the plan, see what council, if council approves the budget, and then we'll vote.
So, did you second it?
No,
Did you second my motion?
I did not.
It's dying for lack of a second. So you have to hear from Dr. Barrett too?
Brad wants to hear from Dr.
Yes.
Barrett.
And you-
We just said that we would take a vote tonight. You don't want us to take a vote tonight because you're not going to be
Well, I
there.
was afraid it wouldn't pass.
Well, I think it will pass.
And I think it will too, because I think the importance of having Dr. Barrett here and Dr. Jetmore is to convince council that this is the budget that passes muster.
Has anyone vetted the budget the council's looking at?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because I've not seen them. Not
So,
that I usually don't.
Here's a question. If we don't pass it tonight, council does, we don't. Let's say Mary Ann's not there. Brad and I are on opposite sides. Don't know that that will happen, don't think that will happen. But if that were to happen, to try to allay her fears, can we come back to that
Yeah.
next
It's
Wednesday?
just no action, basically.
If you'll agree not to call a vote, if
You just said the reason you didn't want to vote is because you didn't think it would pass.
I'm
But even-
afraid-
For it not to
it won't
pass,
pass.
get to a vote.
Exactly.
So you're asking me if I decide I want to pass it tonight, I can't make a motion to?
no, if you'll vote aye, I'm
Well,
fine with that.
If I make the motion, then I hope I vote
Oh, if-
aye for it.
Well, if you,
I make a motion, I'm going to throw it down, that's not going to be an
well,
option.
I mean, stranger things have happened.
That's what I'm saying, after it's all done and the council's, everybody's
Tell you
happy
what.
and
Here's what I'll commit
a
to.
love fest, and I say, let's
If-
make a
I'll
motion.
commit to you that
That's-
I will not vote no tonight.
Will you make that commitment?
No.
He doesn't need to. If you're not there, nothing can pass if I
Only one
vote no.
argument, yeah.
So
But
if it's a
let's
tie
vote
vote,
no.
That's
if
not
it's a tie
valid.
vote, then we can take it up on the 23rd.
If I don't vote
right?
no, it can't.
Okay, well, that's
Because
good.
it's,
No,
my
it's no
motion
action.
dies. There is no.
There's no
Exactly.
action,
It's just
so
like
then
we
we
just did.
could take it up on the 20th. That was the,
Absolutely. That's what I just asked him, and
Well,
he said
I-
we can.
okay.
I mean,
So-
there's a lot of speculation there, Mary Ann, that,
Well, but
that
see,
you have
because
not.
you've never committed that you're going to vote.
I
for
think
it.
I have many a times.
No,
If you would have
you-
been at the health meeting last week, I said I've been behind Dr. Barrett's proposal for the day one. So
But if you were truly committed to voting for it, you would have seconded my motion just now.
At any
Whatever.
rate, He
Just-
didn't, so there's no motion on the floor. We'll take this up
Well,
at
I
a
mean,
future date.
you guys.
We're headed towards approval.
It takes, for final action, it takes a vote of two.
Two of us.
Not unanimous, it doesn't have to be unanimous for it to vote on
No.
first reading?
Well, it's a motion, I think, so all you're gonna do is, it's like an endorsement, it's not an ordinance or a resolution.
Okay, so,
I've not
I
seen the
need,
resolution.
I need to check the.
oh,
it
maybe
may
we
be a
need two
resolution.
votes?
Well, I don't think we do, because I think we're all
We
gonna vote
have that.
for it.
I'm
The
just
governor's
not-
office sent us
There is, yeah.
that proclamation or whatever it was
I
called.
can't remember if it was a resolution or not.
Yeah,
So if it
Show
is
it,
a-
shoot
I-
it.
if it is a-
Look at it.
So it does have to be
But if you don't vote on
unanimous.
it, or if you vote and it doesn't pass unanimously, that's
and
still
I'll
the
tell-
one vote.
I'll go so far as to say this. If it does take 3 votes, aye,
It
and,
won't matter anyhow.
but, well, see, if it,
It takes all 3 votes and I don't
No.
vote, so then
No.
it doesn't matter anyhow.
but
If
you can
you're
come
hung up
back
on
to
the,
a second vote. If it doesn't, if it's not unanimous on the first vote, then you have to come back to it and you can pass it.
Yes,
to-
but unanimity does not require
It's
all 3 votes. It requires only 2.
unanimous of those
Two.
present.
But if we're all 3 here, and we all 3 vote, so a 2 ayes and a nay,
Then we carry it over for a second.
it goes to another
If it in
meeting.
fact is a resolution or an ordinance
If
format.
that happens on the 23rd, then we'll simply have to meet on the 30th to get it done. And we've said we're not going to, but we can.
It's cutting it awful close.
Well, it doesn't matter how close, there's no brownie points, there's no extra money to vote at any particular time. We have until September 1st.
Of course, the greatest concern is council being pretty far apart on the budget.
They'll be fine.
You think they-
It's all gonna work out. They've been working on this for
Did they find a resolution between 2 and 5 employees?
the health board. It's my understanding that the health board is gonna recommend 1 employee and the rest contractual services.
They found a contractor?
We met with Reed Health. Reed Health is going to have a presence tonight to inform council that they're very willing to participate and to help out in any way possible.
Oh, okay.
And that as in a contractual or a grantee kind of relationship.
Well, that's all we needed, yeah.
Exactly. And we
Okay.
did that on Friday.
Mayor,
Tonight,
there is no
council is
reason
just
why I would not
approving a
vote
budget.
for it unless something blows up
They're not
tonight.
gonna opt in
That's the
till
only
next
reason
week.
why.
Well, but opting
Well,
in,
They're
you
gonna
see,
approve it tonight.
opting in
Opt
has nothing to do with a blow up on the budget.
It
They
does.
do have
Approve
to
the
opt in.
budget.
It's senseless to vote in,
No.
We
opt
opt
in.
in.
Yeah, I cannot see your logic. You know, to go on the record
I can't
that
see
Wayne
yours, but
County,
that's,
to go on the record that Wayne County wants to opt in to SEA 4,
and then it blows up with the budget, and then it does mean
well,
nothing.
then shame on council, you know.
Don't.
We're in it together.
Don't presuppose what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
They have
But
a
if
process
we
they
opt
need to
in,
work
that's,
through.
you know, that goes on the record that the commissioners are on
And
the
it
right
means what?
side of this
It
issue.
means what?
It means the commissioners have taken the
It
right
means
action.
what?
And if council blows up tonight, then that's on council.
That does nothing for the citizens of Wayne County.
Well, but at least it goes on the record that the commissioners did the
I'll
right
tell you
thing.
what, no matter what happens tonight, we will still vote next week, okay?
Even if the council
Even if
will
they
not
do
adopt
nothing,
a,
we'll still take a vote.
yeah, for us to remain silent on this very
We
important
won't
issue
remain
is,
silent. We've been working this. We've been working
I
through this
appreciate that
process.
pledge, because for us to do nothing would
We are
be,
not gonna do nothing. We're gonna get this across the finish line, and we're gonna do it in a way that everybody has their
And
say
we've
on
been
this.
talking about this
For
for a long
months.
time,
But
why
you've
we were
been-
not, haven't opted in. This is not a surprise.
but, okay.
Okay. Well, that was an interesting discussion.
Well, we've never really talked about.
We have.
This is the letter you gave us.
Steve?
You want to discuss this?
Yes, sir.
Are you done?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this afternoon, let me tell you.
Pass it down, I don't dance.
I think I passed it to him.
This afternoon, I have a meeting with the mayor. I had forgotten
I can forward it to you.
that we moved our meeting up to 1 o'clock to accommodate your schedule this afternoon. So I have a meeting with the mayor at 1 o'clock. It should just take a few minutes. I'm going to go over early. I can't miss this. It's important. So I will be a few minutes late, but I want you guys to go ahead and reconvene.
We'll start with Kathy.
Go ahead and reconvene at 1 o'clock. I've been through this on the health insurance a number of times where Brad has not. So I'll be able to get caught up. I anticipate 10 or 15 minutes late, but we will reconvene at 1 o'clock with Kathy Dunn, our TPA. So we'll be talking about health insurance this afternoon. That's the only thing left on the agenda, I believe. Bobby, is there anything left on from
You
your
can talk about
perspective?
anything else you want to.
When's the
You can
9/11?
talk about,
Yeah.
This afternoon, you can talk, during your public meeting, you can talk about anything else you want.
sure,
Yeah.
understood, but I don't think there's anything else specifically that we need to. If you have something else, Ron, if you have any documents you want to get back to us. Steve, if you, we wanted to talk about the layout for the campus here and what we want LWC to look at in terms of potentially sidewalk renovations, updates to the brickwork and the entryway into the courthouse, which needs to have some ADA modifications. So we can do that this afternoon. What is it exactly that LWC wants from us?
I think he just, remember when we all walked around and kind of pointed out what you believe this sidewalk plaza brickwork project should look like?
That needs
I
to
need
happen.
to mark up this map so to give them some guidelines to put something together.
Okay, so you'll bring the map with you this afternoon, and it'll take a few minutes. And remember that Mary Ann needs to leave by 2, did you say?
Yeah, unfortunately.
So
Got to be in South Bend at 6.
If you have a little time to get with Steve during the break and see what input you might have in case I'm not sure that Kathy Dunn will be done with her presentation by 2 o'clock. I wouldn't think so. So if you can get with Steve and make sure he knows what your issues are with the sidewalks and brickwork, and then we can finalize that after Kathy Dunn.
Oh, boy.
Jeff, is there any
I sure
procedure
wish
that
we
we
could
can
have
follow
Kathy a
for
different
starting the
day.
meeting at 1?
I don't think so,
Because
Ron.
we're not,
Ron, they can just reconvene the meeting in my absence, can't they, this afternoon?
okay. I just want to make sure we're okay procedurally.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Because we were all copied, I think, on the Recovery Works issue, is anybody else attending the Recovery Works meeting at Reed with all of the Reed ambulance runs to Recovery Works?
I don't remember seeing that.
You don't remember?
I don't see that, but there's also a big law enforcement issue with that too. So.
Oh, absolutely, it's law enforcement and ambulance, and in any event, there's a Zoom, it's Friday, and then an in-person meeting in the oncology room on the 28th. I'll be going to that because there's been a leadership change at Recovery Works, and I do not know the new administrator there, but it's got to change because the majority of the ambulance runs in the western sector of Reed's hospital ambulance service are to that one location, and it has to be addressed. It's gotten up.
We can handle that too as commissioners and not approve any expansions of their program. And
Well, except we have to do, it has to be
Well,
now. It just has to be addressed because it's out of hand.
Can you make sure I get that? Because I
haven't
don't
seen
recall
it
seeing
either, but I know
an email
about it, but I
that.
didn't.
Really? You
Yeah.
were not copied? Okay.
Not that I recall, so if you could get me a
Because
copy
I've
of
been,
that.
I've been working directly with Matthew about some data on the runs and that sort of thing, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ron, anything you want to say about this letter?
FYI,
Okay.
I will follow up with you.
Okay, good deal. Anything else before we recess for
Real quick,
lunch
did
break?
we hear anything back from Animal Welfare League? Have they responded to your letter?
We have
Do we
not.
not
So we don't know if they're showing up next week or not.
We'll follow up. We will follow up.
Because I guess if they don't, I mean, we need to make action what we're going to do.
Yeah, but I have not heard anything, Bobby. I assume you have not either.
No, I have not.
That's
Okay.
not a good sign.
Let's,
We're lucky that the vicious animal bites and hospitalizations have occurred inside the city of Richmond in the last 2 weeks. For us to not have any place to take these vicious animals is just outrageous.
can you call them right after? Okay, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
If not, we'll recess until 1 o'clock.
Jeff will not be here. He's going to be a little late, so he wanted to go ahead and redeem. Start, so if you want to go ahead.
Sure, thank you. Okay, I'm going to go through your packet, it's bound packet. Pam's behind us. Okay, real quickly, you renewed July 1, so we're starting a new plan year. And we keep the accounting on a plan year basis. So the first report you have there is an aggregate report. So you only have the first month of July listed there. As a reminder, up in the left-hand corner, there's an information box and it says specific deductible $150,000. So that means the county, as a self-funded plan, pays for the first $150,000 for a person for their claims. And we go by plan year, so from July 1 to June 30th, if someone hits $150,000, anything above that's reimbursed by the reinsurance company. Okay?
Okay.
Second part, what this report is an aggregate report. If you look up there in the left-hand box, attachment point is $4,073,560. So what that means, at the end of the year, if our year's worth of claims have been reimbursed, are over that number, you would get a refund from the reinsurance company. Okay? So most of the time, the underwriters, they don't expect you to hit that aggregate. They expect you to be around 80% of it. Okay? That would be a good, and he's quick.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
much earlier, good.
Okay, Jeff, we're just on the first page, just this year's aggregate. We just
Okay.
went through. So I'm going to have you, you can see we're only at 17% so far this year, 1 month. It'll accumulate there. Second page there is the aggregate for last year, the complete year. And as you can see in the yellow highlighted box, we ended up our loss ratio at 59%. That's on the good side of very good. So, again, the normal expected is an 80% loss ratio. And, you know, a few years ago, we had like 2 kind of difficult years in a row because we had multiple cancer cases, large claims, and those have kind of rectified. So this is really a great year that we just finished up. And we had a good renewal that reflected that. Okay?
I can't see you, so I'm going to come where I can see you.
Okay. So the next one, just real quick, and I'm just kind of giving you a perspective on where we are financially. Here's our large claims since July 1. Okay, so obviously the dollar amounts aren't very big, but the first one's an ongoing cancer case, diagnosed a year and a half or so ago. So that's our top case right now. And it's also our laser. So because of the prior cancer, it was a pretty big claim. So we have a laser into this year. I'm not expecting us to come anywhere near that, 250,000. We're on the tail end of this cancer, but you never know. So the reinsurance kind of gave us an option. Do we want higher rates or do we want to take a chance and self-fund more on this person? Again, I think we're on the tail end of the treatment, so I think we'll be okay. Then if you go on through there, I can tell you that genitourinary, those are pregnancies. That's the general category that pregnancy falls under. So we have several. It's been a couple of years since we've had very many pregnancies, but they're all hitting. So I think you've had some retirements and you're hiring younger people.
Right.
So we may see more of those as you go.
So I'm joining you. There's a-
Okay, I'm going to flip you on over. Okay, Greg, I'm going to have you tell them what this chart is.
Yeah, so this chart is really just to kind of track where your 12-month trend is going. So every month that you see is 12 months of claims. So if you look back a year ago, August, your plan was running at 3.1,444,000. A few ups and downs because it happens in a smaller group like this. And then currently you're right around, well, just under 3.1 million at 3.09. So you can see your trend line is down, which is good. Nothing really jumps out at us there as being a problem. And then if you look at the next page, so the first page was net of reinsurance. That was what I would call actual cost to the county. This next page looks at what were the actual claims without reinsurance, so that you can kind of spot where the medical's going. Now this trend is also down, but you can see when we did our system conversion in January and February, claims went really low to 0 and then spiked up. So that spike is really not a spike. It's just the catch up from the 2 months. So on this one, I mean, as we go forward, we won't have that in there anymore. But at least your claims trend is heading down as well without reinsurance. So, yep.
Okay, next, so overall, what pictures say 1,000 words, we're on the right level. We're coming down slightly. You should ask me if I think that'll stay forever. The answer's no.
Will that stay forever?
No. Right now, we're running, medical inflation is running, new reports out by the consulting firms are running about 6% for medical inflation. Drug costs, they're expecting 10 to 12% increases. So we're going to talk about drugs and those kind of things in a minute. So all things being equal, the same bills would cost us a little bit more next year. I think everybody knows that. We've been to the grocery store, the gas pump, but we're having some inflation if we do nothing else. So just factor that in when we get to the budget part here. Next one's your Swift MD report. This is for your medical. We're often asked, is this worth it? One, I think we get a lot of positive comments from your employees. Not everybody uses it, but a good chunk of your employees use it. So you've paid from last July to June for the whole year of last year. You paid $17,780. It's up in the top left-hand box, in that gray box. And we estimated above the cost that we saved over $100,000 in claims. So to me, that's good. More importantly, I think it's a convenience. I think it plugs a hole. Like, okay, I've got a 5-year-old and they've got 102 fever and it's 5 o'clock in the morning. Something's got to give. I'm going to call Swift MD, see what we need to do here. Poison ivy, you made it through the whole day, but it's 7 o'clock at night. What's your alternative at 7 o'clock at night? Go to urgent care or go to the ER? We really don't need poison ivy going to the ER. I mean, might end up there, but
The expansion of the program to people that are not on the insurance plan, I think, is a very modest investment that really brings a valuable benefit to those
we
folks.
have had calls, and I think some people were flabbergasted. Am I going to get a bill? Do I have to pay for this? No, you don't. I mean, if they prescribe a drug, you
Right.
get to pay for your drug. I I don't know if you have other family insurance or what, but my staff took a lot of calls like, unbelievable. Are you sure? Yes. Well, I've already called it. It worked great, but am I going to get a bill? No. So, yeah, that was the first couple weeks. So, we did not get any negative calls. Ooh, could have, but yeah, we were watching it. We didn't, so that's good. And as you know, a lot of people use SwiftMD for, I'm going to say, respiratory issues. And COVID's back out there with a lot of respiratory issues. What we're hearing, seeing, the reports we're getting is this newest COVID strain has a lot of sore throat involved, maybe more so than the other ones. Okay, next page. My attempt here to kind of show you where you are and what I think a budget looks like. Some of you recognize this is kind of our quote sheet when we bring quotes in, but the blue column is exactly what we renewed for July 1 of 23. So we're a month and a half into that, okay? So if you take those rates, what do we think would happen in the next 12 months? With medical inflation at 6%, with drugs at 10 to 12%, but we're running very well, okay? So this is we presented if we were to increase everything 5%, what would that look like? So if you come over here on the left in the calculations, that would look, you know what, that 80% factors the whole thing, sorry. Your increased fixed costs, that'd be a $28,000 increase. Medical factors, another $200,000. Dental, 5% increase would be another $7,300. It's the first section up there, okay? So that's with a 5% increase. Is that reasonable? That would be very reasonable. Do you need to do it? Okay, let's think of it this way. Go on down to where it says reserve analysis. As of yesterday, you had $970,000 in the bank account. That's our operating cash. You also had $3,044,000 in investments, which are insured CDs. By the way, they're now getting like 5% interest, which is really good. And so, and again, we had just gotten your deposit for the month in this past week. So you can expect that 900 to go down some yet this month. We've got claims to pay. So you're looking at $3.9 million in the bank. So how much do you need? You're self-funded. If you quit being self-funded, we would still have runoff claims, runoff. So we call that you need reserves. So if you look in my little chart here, at 30%, you need almost 1.3 million. I think you need to have about 50% reserves. So you're looking at least 2.1, 2.2 million you should have in reserves at any given time. There's another reason you need reserves. But you know how insurance is kind of a game. We try to get the best discounts we can. Sometimes I can get a bigger discount on a large bill if we can pay it within 3 days. So a prompt pay on top, instead of taking the regular discount of 20%, I might get a 40% if I can pay it in 3 days. So we have to have enough operating cash that we can cut deals like that if it's meaningful. And sometimes it is. I mean, if you got a couple $100,000 claim, saving another 30, 40, 50,000 is significant. So we would prefer to have enough cash on hand or access to it that we can make sure we're doing the best job we can for you financially. So because we were 59% last year on our loss ratio, we added to the reserves a little bit. You know, most years were about 80-85% loss ratio, which would take them down a little bit more. So you need some cushion there, okay? Are you in good shape? Moral of the story, you're in good shape. Would I recommend you consider an increase 50-50? I mean, my logic side of me says be prepared, yes. The other side of that is you're in really good shape. So even if you left your budget the same for another year, maybe, but you guys know where your money is. I don't know where all your money is on your side or whether you have access to anything else if we got hit hard. Would I deplete those reserves? No, I would not. It's too hard to build them back up. A few years ago, they were way down, and it's very difficult to build it back up. So I would protect what you have. You guys know more. I don't know your head count for next year. Don't know if we're going to add or delete. I hadn't asked that question yet.
Stay the same.
Same? Okay. Am I laying out the parts for you?
Yes.
And when you say increase to the reserves, is that what you're saying?
Increase to your budget, how much you fund monthly.
Which would include how much the employees pay for their coverage.
Two parts to that. Let's flip the page. Okay. That's just your scheduled benefits that we have right now. You guys made some significant changes last year, for January 1 of this year. So last fall, we were discussing this. Currently, your traditional plan has a $2,000 deductible for an individual, $4,000 for a family. Your total out-of-pocket, which is your deductible, co-pays, co-insurance, is at $7,500 for a single, $15,000 for a family. In that red fine print down there, I just want to make you aware, for the IRS just came out with the IRS ACA maximums for a traditional plan is $9,450 for out of pocket. So you're at $7,500. That's pretty nice in this day and age. Could you increase that? Well, I can show you some calculations here in a second. But on your high deductible plan, it's designed, and this was a kicker last year, it is HSA compatible, which means by design, everything applies to deductible except your preventative, which is paid at 100%, no deductible. The confusion on that plan is that everybody was used to paying co-pays for their drugs. They had no idea how much drugs cost. So even if you had a $200 drug, which is really pretty cheap these days, they were only seeing a $5 or a 10% copay, had no idea it was a $200 drug. You can imagine the reaction when people found out their drugs were $800-900. So once they got through that shock, it was an adjustment, and it's an education piece. As a reminder, you guys fund $1,000, you pay it quarterly, $250, into the HSA. So you are contributing that first $1,000 for them. So certainly that helps everybody. I think everything settled down after the initial few weeks in January, the shock of it. We help people with GoodRx. You've heard the GoodRx app. You can check and see if that's cheaper. Several people said, what else can I take? And we got them on it, gave them the list, and they went to their doctor and got on generic. You mean I was taking an $800 drug and I could have been taking a $20 drug? Yes. So again, very effective. The plan design was effective in that sense. Hence, we ended up the year at 59% loss ratio. The cost is down, so everything contributes. Okay, flip the page. I did a few calculations for you. Greg, I think our opinion is You made some major changes January 1. I'm almost of the opinion that let's just leave the plans as they are for another year. Our cost was very reasonable, and I think there was a lot of changes. I think you need to let those settle in a little bit. However, if you were going to ask me what could we do, remember earlier on Plan A, our total out-of-pocket right now is $7,500. The IRS limit's $9,450. So if you wanted to adjust that a little bit, you could go up $500 in your medical coinsurance, maybe $500 in your drug coinsurance, okay? That would add another $1,000 to it. It wouldn't affect everybody because most people don't hit their coinsurance. So if you look down at the bottom, so far in 23, it's under the gold bar at the bottom. 34 people have met Plan A deductible. Now, will more people hit it by the end of the year? Well, of course, you know, it's a cumulative, but met coinsurance, only 7 people so far. So let's say 21 people met their coinsurance for the whole year. If we increase that coinsurance $500, that might save the plan $10,500. Yeah. Not a lot of savings there. If you look at Plan B, just so you know, 13 people met the $5,000 deductible. Now, once you meet that $5,000 deductible, you're at 100% for the rest of the year. Okay. Only 14 people have met their RX, their drug coinsurance, under Plan A. So I figure you're going to have more people meet that before the end of the year. So assuming 40 maybe, if you ran up 500, that'd save the plan $20,000. Are you guys following my calculations? And I'm guessing a little bit on here's where we are and where do I think we'll end up. But not a significant savings per se. The only thing I caution you on is if you do nothing for 10 years, all of a sudden you're not doing a $500 increase, you're doing a big jump. So again, we made some significant changes January 1. I'm not sure tweaking it really helps that much. Any
So a
thoughts on
maximum
that?
of $20,000 to the plan is not significant, but a $500 impact to the individual is pretty significant on prescription.
Not sure it carries much weight. I mean, the bang for the buck, yeah.
Yeah.
My inclination would be to stay where we're at for
Yeah.
another year. I think, you know, we're new to this program and a lot of the elements of the program. Financially, we're in good shape. Let's make sure that filters through to our employees and that we're not raising things. But I agree with you that we don't want to go too long without
Correct.
factoring in inflation into the cost that the employees pay.
Correct. I mean, it is, remember, what funds this is employee contribution and employer. So it's got to be a balance between the two of you.
And much more so, obviously, employer versus employee.
Yes.
That's part of the beauty of the plan we're able to put together. But I think it makes sense to hold it where we're at.
They really cooperated in the last year.
And I want to make sure everybody understands the current plan before we start considering making changes to it. So even just
I
reviewing
think-
with people how it works.
I think it's very reasonable to let it settle another year. They know a whole lot more now than they did in January, and I think your employees would appreciate that, but I'm not sure the cost of the plan right now is driving you to make significant
Exactly.
changes. Okay? That's my 2 cents on that.
Kathy, did we check the plan from the expected onslaught of the diabetes drugs being used for weight loss for non-diabetics?
Can you hold that for just a second?
Sure.
Because I need to address that.
Okay.
That,
Then for you, one other question. On a high deductible, your full cost of scripts does still apply against your deductible, doesn't it?
yes, it does.
Okay, I keep track of that because I just converted, but I noticed that there's a little bit of a lag in getting the
Yes.
statement of benefits for those drugs.
Yes.
And I just assume they get to them when they get to them. I mean, but I mean,
Well,
when
we
you get them at
we get them
$7,
updated every 8 days. So you may have bought it, we won't get the bill for 8 days.
okay, I've got some that I never received an EOB on, but
Okay?
maybe, I don't know, the pharmacy didn't submit them. Could be.
Well, we don't send EOBs on,
Pardon?
you wouldn't get an EOB at home on the drugs.
We are right now.
I'm seeing
We have
some,
been.
they appear to be consolidating several scripts
Okay.
Yeah.
over, you know.
Oh, I see, okay.
Are you using Good RX?
Pardon?
Are you using Good RX? Or the because that doesn't go toward the deductible. You have to manually submit it.
We don't use good
No, I
RX.
don't
You
think
don't?
you do.
Okay.
Let me check, Ron. I can get a printout for you.
Well, it's no big deal,
Yeah.
I'm trying to track my deductible, you know, as the year
Exactly.
goes on.
Are you signed up for the web portal where you can track your deductible? Okay, I'll
I'll
send
take
you
that to
those
be a
two.
no. Well, that's the response you did.
Okay, we can help that. Okay, just a couple more things down here in the weeds. I put in that yellow box under the graph, 2024 maximum out of pocket for a traditional plan. I mentioned that a minute ago, $9,450. Out of pocket, maximum out of pocket for a high deductible health plan, which is your Plan B, is $8,050 for 20, and you're at $5,000.
These are the limits.
Those are the IRS
The maximums.
limits, okay? So you are in compliance, no problem there. HSA contributions for an individual, Kim, I just put those on just reference point. It's going to go up to $4,150 for an individual, and then you have $1,000 catch up. Now, your $1,000 counts towards that $4,150.
Okay, so if we do that, then their limit would be 3,100.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, just get that in your head, and think in our enrollment materials, we'll state it that way, okay? Now, last year, we raised your basic life insurance. It hadn't been raised in, I think we inherited $15,000. We went to $25,000, so that costs you about $5 per person that's covered by life insurance, the employee. So I just did the what ifs, trying to think of what, if you needed to raise anything. If you went to $30,000, it'll cost you another $1. You've got about $270 under life insurance, so overall that costs another $3,300 for the year in premium, additional. Don't know that you need to do that this year, but if you're thinking about it, that's what a $5,000 bump would do. Vision benefits, we got a lot of compliments on you increasing from $250 to $300, and a lot of calls saying, but glasses cost $800. So we knew it was a small bump last year, so I estimated if you went to $400 this year, I've got how many met that, you know, 66 have met it so far this year. If that's 3/4 of the year, if you estimate 88, then that's $8,800 increase for the year. If you look at last year, 113 met the 250. So if they met the 250, they met the 300. So, you know, that'd be 11,000. So anywhere from, I don't know, probably $9,000 to $12,000 increase to increase it some more. Very minimal. It's not meant to be all inclusive, but it's a nice benefit. It's 100% for people. It does help quite a bit. I'm just throwing out some other, you know, tangent type ideas for you to consider. Okay? Overall, I think both Greg and I feel that Plan A, Plan B are pretty good like they are, and probably you should let it settle for another year.
Agreed.
Okay? Okay, now let's talk drugs. Okay, so I passed out these other 2 flyers. When we were here for the renewal, we talked about specialty drugs. You've got quite a few people on, more than a handful of people on patient assistance programs. We have saved several $100,000 the last 2 years by assisting people to sign up for the patient assistance rather than the plan pay for their specialty. If they qualify, which most of them have, what we are now seeing is that the pharmaceutical companies have figured out what all the plans are doing, and they're basically taking away the patient assistance programs. So you could see more specialty cost come back on the plan. Heads up. So now you ask me, you know, should we leave the budget exactly the same? Should we nudge it up a few percentage? Be aware that our drug cost is most likely going to increase in the next year. Okay?
Have a question. Of those on patient assistance, do you know right off how many of those are for diabetes medications?
None. They're not specialty.
Okay.
But they cost approximately $15,000 a year.
Each of the specialty drugs, so
No,
without
the diabetic.
the diabetic.
The weight loss drugs, let's just call it what it is.
Okay, but the only way our employees can claim for those drugs is for a diabetic diagnosis.
We have, as most plans have, required a prior authorization, which means a pharmacist is going to review their medical records to see if they're really diabetic or pre-diabetic, what the comorbidities are for pre-diabetic, what their BMI is. So if, let's pretend Jeff's BMI is 20.
You don't need to put the laugh in the minutes.
And he wants that new Mounjaro drug. When that pharmacist at Turex gets the records and says, no, you don't qualify, okay?
Even if he has type 2 diabetes?
Correct, because it's not prescribed for that. I mean, it's prescribed for type 2 diabetes if you have a BMI of over this, and if you have this, and if you have that.
So it has to be a co-diagnosis.
It's got to be, his history's got to warrant it. What we are now seeing, I think Greg's dealt with this, when the pharmacist requests the medical history, there's no record that this person was ever pre-diabetic or diabetic or pre-diabetic at all. And the pharmacist is rejecting them. Then I get hysterical calls because, you know, you got to have it.
I'm getting married in 6 months. I got to have it.
We've had
for my
one of those.
wedding. Yeah.
Okay? So the history will determine whether you qualify, not just this letter from your doctor.
So when you say qualify, you mean qualify for our insurance to reimburse you?
Correct.
They could still get the medication if they get a prescription, but they have to pay for it.
Just not under your checkbook.
Right.
They cost about $15,000 a year.
That's down from what we were told earlier.
Yeah, it's running about $15,000 right now. Do I think that'll go up? Probably.
When do patents run on that where we can get generic
years.
weight loss? Years.
Lilly has even come out and stated, so it's out there, that these are designed to stay on for life. The minute you quit taking them, you will gain weight back. Okay? So, you've heard that too? Yeah, it's...
I
think I told you this, we've got 2 medical spas in town, in Columbus. You can get them for $300 a month through the medical spa.
Injections or tablets?
Injections.
Injection.
And you think, how in the world? So, is there plenty of profit built into these? I'm sure there are. But let's flip. Does your plan pay for weight loss drugs? No. Does your plan pay for diabetes drugs? Yes. This new special diabetic drug that's good for weight loss, we've got it set up that you must qualify. Do you have some people on it? Yes. I'll let you know, but if we check or have the doctor send us the records or ask the doctor if it's effective and they haven't lost any weight on it, do we have to continue? I'm working with TrueRx on that one, and I think that'll go through their pharmacy program. What's advertised, I think, word of mouth advertising. You'll lose weight, you don't have to change your diet, or you don't have to exercise. Some people keep eating, so it's not all that good for some people. So I think we just stay diligent on it. Another couple ideas. I don't know that I have a bulldozer to roll over that one, but one thing I'd like for us to try is the On Track program. It's a new program. It's diabetes management through TrueRx. Ooh. So here's the deal. Starting January 1, if you sign up for it after January 1, it's going to be $100 a month while they manage your diabetes coach. You'll have somebody calling you, look at all your medicines and see which ones are working together or not. So this is a kind of a advocate situation, if you will, a coaching situation to review your medicines. Is this the one working for you? What's the problem? Well, it makes me sick at my stomach every day, so I'm not taking it. Oh, well, let us call your doctor and see what we can do. How to help people be compliant. If we're compliant with our diabetes management, you probably won't have the heart, the strokes, the other problems that a lot of diabetics end up with. Okay. If we start it before January 1, it's $50 a month. I'm willing to try it. You've got a couple dozen diabetics. This is voluntary, so somebody could say, if it's Ron Cross, he may say, I don't want any part of it, that's fine. But if it's Kim and I talk her into it, then we pay $50 a month for them to step in and help manage the treatment and coordinate the drugs and all that. I think it's a good voluntary program at that price.
Does this require workday time off to participate? It's in their own time?
Is that for pre-diabetic diagnosis also?
And we have how many?
Well, I know you had like 28 the last time I looked of diabetics.
Diabetics, so any idea how many pre?
I do not know, but
It's probably at least 20.
if somebody is, their doctors told them pre-diabetic, which we can search the diagnosis codes and if we can reach out. I would start with the diabetics and then word of mouth. If it's working well, we reach out and contact more people.
Pre-diabetics are all type 2.
Yes.
Right.
Do you know of those 28 if there are any type 1s? Surely a handful, right?
I think there are a few.
A few. Usually it's like 10% of all
I think
diabetes.
I can think of 2.
Okay, that'd be around 10, yeah. The type 2 incidence in the population has grown so rapidly.
I think it's worth giving it a shot. Let's see what, it's a new program for TrueRx. I don't think it'll hurt us. It might be something that would really help somebody.
So we're talking about roughly 30 people at $50 a a month is
I'm going to guess
15.
a third of those would do it.
And we're only charged for those who participate.
Yes,
So
yes.
$500
So
a
there's nothing to
month.
lose.
$500 a month, $6,000 a year
Correct.
to try it and see what kind of feedback we get from.
If we can get somebody off some drugs,
Yeah,
you-
could save that in a heartbeat.
How soon can we sign up?
today,
Let's do it today. Or as soon as we can.
And so this can come right out of the reserves that
yes.
you control, so
Yes.
it's not something that we have to have money appropriated.
and it doesn't change your contract with TrueRx. We would just initiate some additional services there.
I'm game to give it a try and say we commit to it for a year and see
Perfect.
how it goes.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Better
Let's-
than $15,000 a prescription.
Let's go ahead and take a vote. Do we have a motion to join
Move
the,
that we join the
what's it called?
diabetic
On track.
management program through TrueRx.
Yes.
Make it available to all who qualify.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So
Perfect,
let's-
thank you.
let's start it.
I think it fits your group.
Yeah.
I'd like to try this. Also, remember, if we help Jeff for 3 months and he's good and he doesn't do it
And he
longer
would
than
go
that, you
off
don't
the
pay for
program.
that.
Okay.
So it's not a year-long commitment
No,
or anything?
it's just whatever month they help him.
Okay.
But you could also have a new hire that comes on board.
Right,
that-
right.
oh,
So the number we're dealing with is a moving target.
It is. And if TrueRx reaches out and you don't want to do it, Jeff, you can say no.
Okay.
But it may only take 3 months to get into the routine of compliance.
That's
And
correct.
once he's compliant, that could very well reduce his likelihood to be attracted to these $15,000 a year drugs.
Correct.
And I'm assuming this applies to anybody that's like
Over the sugar
diabetic.
cream pie.
They're right on that border and
But you're only at 20 BDI, so you can have all the sugar cream pie you want.
Now, Brad, this does not target, I'm not diabetic. Questionable whether I qualify for pre-diabetic probably, but I couldn't call them and say, hey, start coaching me. I don't have any of the qualifications.
you have to be
be in.
diagnosed with.
This is truly a diabetic-centered program, okay? If this works well, they may spin out some other ones.
Yeah.
that they
Convince you
like.
to go full
It's,
diabetic.
Yeah.
Compliance saves
How
money
do we-
all over.
You identify those people and communicate with them. Do you want to participate in this trial program?
Yes,
Okay,
okay?
good.
So, again, somebody could decline, no problem. Let's try it. I don't think we lose much by trying it. Now, the other one that is full force now, we have used this, I have used it on somebody in your account. True Genomics is a cheek swab done at the pharmacy. And I'm going to give you an example. Especially for mental health drugs, a lot of them don't work for certain metabolisms, for certain genetic makeup. So Kim might be prescribed Prozac, if you will, and it does nothing for her. And she should have been on something completely different, which works great for her. Rather than put somebody through 6 months of, I've tried this for 3 months, tried this for 3 months, we can narrow it and get them on the right drug the first time around. This cost about $200 for the genetic testing. And it's specifically to tell you which of these category of drugs, which one will work for you. There won't be very many people that need this, but if we come across a situation that could warrant this, and there's certain drugs that can prescribe that they've got flagged that if you get this one, we really should make sure it's right for you.
Oh, yes, I could throw a big bar. Okay.
So the category I see it used mostly for is mental health situations.
But this flyer refers to a heart condition. So
That's the other one. So it was a heart condition I used it on. I told him yes. It was covered under the cost of your drugs on your drug bill. If you're okay, I'll continue to do that. I don't know if we'll have anybody else or when or if this would be meaningful, but I wanted to let you know it was out there and it's another tool we can do to help somebody.
And so, you kind of estimated.
We might
talking
have
about
2 or 3
diabetics,
next
but
year. You know, if we have
it-
half a dozen,
it'll be
great.
It'll be a limited number. So
Very
we're talking
limited,
about
but
hundreds, maybe a few $1,000s a year
if that.
to make sure that they get the right medication.
$3 a month.
Oh, is it? Oh,
I'm sorry?
I forgot that. It is?
It's $3 per employee per month
I'm sorry.
for their monitoring, and then it's
Oh, for the-
$200 for the test when they identify somebody that would need the test.
Let me ask them if we can just flag it and do the test without the monitoring, if we monitor it. There's certain drugs that they want to, that flag it.
I don't like that
let
per
me ask
employee
that.
per month thing.
Okay, I've used it and just allowed the 200.
Well,
I admit that.
so.
Let me
you
see what
check
it
and
is.
see what you can do and.
But it's out there. So here again, this is another layer of maybe do it right the first time. Get what you need the first time, and it's better for the person.
But even this $2 or $3 a month per person is not for everybody in our plan, or is it?
You think
In
it
this
is?
case, it is, but
Okay.
because they monitor every drug that gets filled to try to identify situations where it would
Okay.
And
be
then they
beneficial.
say that person needs to be tested.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's,
Is that
Need
what
to
the new
think about
program
that.
is?
Yeah, because that would require really some kind of analysis. Well, certainly, we understand this would be beneficial to the patient to not undergo the inconvenience of a 6 months.
But not at
taking
a
the wrong
cost of this.
But what is the cost of taking the wrong prescription? You know, is there genuine damage fiscally done by taking the wrong?
We don't know.
Well, yeah, you
Yeah.
get kids that get prescribed this stuff when they're in grade school,
Yeah.
and then you find out they have weight loss, not very well controlled, they're moody, and then they do a genetic test 10 years later
Right.
and go, oh, well, they had you on XYZ drug, which isn't good for your genetic makeup, but if we would have tried this one to start with, you might not have had the weight loss. So it's
Why
that
don't you-
kind of,
So is it
calculate
more,
what the cost would be.
Yeah, I
is
will.
it more driven by the script that gets written than it is by conditions that are diagnosed, or is it?
First, they identify the script and then
Then
look
that-
into the
red
history.
flags.
So it's got to match up. Ron.
And it's
not
just a swab test, but that's $200 because of all the genetic testing that follows the swab.
yeah. I mean, I just saw one last week. Somebody had done the genetic testing. They said they would react negatively to Prozac and Wellbutrin. And in talking to the person, they couldn't take those, but the doctor had put them on that for 2 or 3 months at a time. So it just speeds up the process of getting on the right drug.
Yeah, I'm not saying no, I just would like to.
And
Right.
I
Yeah,
think when we talk to TrueRx about this, there's going to be more drugs in the future that are like this way as
Oh,
well.
I'm sure.
Because it
I know
just
they're
gets
doing
right to
that
the.
genetic testing for like drug addiction and alcohol where they can do that. I just went
Yes.
through some training about this and
It's kind of
it's
amazing.
very beneficial because it tells them what medication, like you said, this isn't going to help you. It actually might compound the problem.
Yeah.
But let me check the pricing. I need to tell you, I used it not that long ago on one of your employees.
And so
the cost
would-
was $200.
The cost per person would be based on belly buttons or based on
Employee.
employees?
Yeah, if we can
It's
do
going to be
it,
your enrolled population that are on the drug program.
we can do it
No,
all
it's
it's hard,
it'd
it's a
be
lot more attractive.
per employee though, wouldn't it? all their fees are per employee.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, not
so-
per building, but not a
Okay,
plan. But
so,
your family would be
and we have
$3
what?
if
We
you had
have how
5 kids.
many employees on the plan?
255.
255, okay, so we're talking about less than $1,000 a month for the fee, but then $200 for every test they do.
I will have them run some more analysis on it. I wanted you
Okay.
guys to know it was out there in case somebody said
Okay.
they had me do this. That might be true.
Yeah, they'll come back and say, we've identified 30 people on so many different drugs that could possibly benefit. Then you can kind of make a decision.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I don't want to say no out of
No,
here.
no, but consider it if something crops up, we may want to do a one-off or something to help the situation.
And
I
that's-
think you see
that's
this a lot
not-
in kids. too.
That's not an opt-in situation, so it would be everybody on our plan.
So, you're going to ask, what can we do about the high cost of drugs? Okay, I didn't pass these out, we can. There's other programs, well, why don't you go ahead and just pass these that way. Oh, one more, sorry. Okay, there's programs, this is a little, it would be optional. We do have plans that use this. It's called CanRx. I have one employee that uses it. It's actually importing drugs from Canada, okay? Depending on who you talk to, whether they like that or not, understand that. I'm not saying absolutely do this. I'm saying it's out there. A lot of plans are using this. To give you some idea, it may be in the other one, but if you look on the last page, there's all sorts of name brand drugs. This isn't for generic drugs, but name brand drugs that you can get through CanRx. I'm sure you guys can recognize some of these names on here. Vytorin, Xarelto, Xeljanz, Strattera, Rybelsus. As you can guess, a lot of these are those TB drugs you see the commercials for. Yeah. So these are not specialty drugs, but they are expensive name brand drugs. So I just looked at Rybelsus yesterday. It's about $3,300 a month here through TrueRx. It was $469 through CanRx. And that's a 90-day supply. Crazy, crazy. It's available. We have no plans that mandate it. Both CanRx and ElectRx require that you fill the script here locally first. Make sure you can take it, and then you can send a new script for 12 months up there, and you'll get it quarterly. Okay? It's an option. More and more people are looking at that.
Is it legal?
Just depends on who you talk to. Everybody says it is. It is legal. The person has to send their own script. I can't transfer your script. Okay? So you have to get your own script from the doctor and you send it up there to request it. It's individual importation is legal. Corporate importation is not.
Okay. But the doctor cannot submit the script by email, fax, or mail.
Correct. The individual has to.
So only the patient is liable to prosecution.
No, it's actually legal.
Okay,
It's legal for an individual to.
It's legal for an individual. So
That makes no sense.
I didn't say it did. I just throwing out options here. We do have plans that use both these.
There are no opioids on here, are there?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Those come through the south border.
Yeah, that's not So, one thing you've got to realize is, like, example, Lipitor, I believe, it's manufactured in Ireland. That's the only place that manufactures Lipitor. It gets shipped out all over the world from Ireland. It's much cheaper for it to be shipped from Ireland to Canada to the U.S. than straight to the U.S. So most of these, I know CanRx, they use Australia, UK, the Ireland, which is Lipitor and something else, is where they're getting, which are tier 1 approved sites, not countries that
So
don't
meet
have
the
any
same
control.
standards as
Yes.
being produced in the US.
Yes. This is, there is no cost to like add CanRx, no cost to your plan, could save somebody some money. So the reason I brought it up, we were discussing, you've got a high deductible plan, would this save somebody some money? It would be their choice.
Right. And
Not-
they have to do it. Okay.
It's just another good RX, right?
It is. Now, the deal with CanRx and ElectRx, if they go through that program, the drug's paid at 100%, no deductible. So now your question is, maybe to Ron, is technically on your fully insured, on your high deductible plan, drugs are you're supposed to meet your deductible.
Yeah.
You want to deal with that one? I mean, is that right or wrong? Probably questionable. Is everybody doing it? Yes.
My mom would say if everybody was jumping off the roof, would you do it too?
Yeah,
So-
that's exactly what I've heard too. Again, if you look at the difference in the payment, what it costs here versus what they get it up there and apply that to their deductible would be probably, you know, apples to apples, closer to that. They'll fill their deductible. It's an option. I felt like I needed to educate you. These programs are out there. It depends on if somebody's trying to save money. Okay?
You need to think about that.
I have no real opinion. I can't steer you on that one. I can
Is
tell
this
you it's
something
out
we
there.
could opt into
Anytime.
outside our plan, kind of, we don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to decide.
This could- Anytime we could.
Yeah.
Drugs are going to go up in cost. Everybody's looking for solutions. This is what we have for you. I mean, this is what's out there that people are using. I'm putting it on the table. Do I think it's all legit or have all the answers? No, I'm not. It's optional. Would I push everybody to do this? Nope. I think you got to stop short of that.
Thank you.
Okay? And here's another one. Yeah, another program. I'll just leave it with you. It's Shop Firehouse.
Oh, yeah, you just.
We've got a call ready. Later this week.
I'll be with them right before.
That's a put in play program.
Thanks for doing that.
Specialty goes
Did I give you the frames? Yeah, they just slid in.
Brad, do
Pay
you
them
have
reduced fee.
questions? It's kind of the first time we've been through this. And
These are extras.
on the other hand,
It's too good to be true.
we're in pretty good shape.
It sounds like we're in pretty good shape, and
Finances are-
I see the recommendation that we don't do anything, I mean, like you said, we make changes in January.
Yeah,
I think we just kind of play it.
that's what I think.
Yeah, if I could just leave my fondness for increasing vision a little bit, because it's so affordable to get a lot.
Do you want to go ahead
And I'm not opposed
have
to
a
that.
motion to?
Yeah, I move that we increase the vision to $400 because of the increase in
I was
optical.
thinking of a motion to approve no changes to the plan, but you
But,
wanna
well, that's one
approve-
change I would like to see.
You want to increase the vision from 300 to 400,
Yes.
and
And life from 25,000 to 30,000 because it costs us so very little, right?
Well, you just increased it this past year.
Oh, but let's leave the
I'd like
life
to leave
alone.
that alone. but
Just
I'm okay
vision,
with
no
going-
life.
Going from 300 to 400.
All right, I'll
vision.
second that motion.
You
With
know
no
how
other
much
changes, correct?
Vision expense have really gone up.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
And with that
Motion
one,
carries.
with that one change, I move we make no other changes and go forward
Okay.
with the plan.
We already did that. It
Oh,
was included in that first
was that
motion.
included? Okay. My apologies. I really
That's all
wish
right.
but I just have to be in South Bend. People coming from states around.
All right, safe travels.
Thank you.
So Jeff, with another question real quick, one
Yes.
reminder on the health insurance. Last year, the decision was made, once an employee enrolls in Plan B, there was no going back to A. You also want
Correct.
to stay with that also?
Yeah, I think we want to keep the plan
Okay.
the way it is, that which would include the
Eligibility
$1,000
part of that.
for the
Okay.
contribution
Okay.
to HSA.
Okay. Just for
For
clarification.
four equal payments over the year, quarterly payments.
Okay.
And so we'll shoot for the first or second week in October for the open enrollment?
I just think in this environment that we didn't have to raise it as a limit.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
I agree.
And employees contributed to that by switching to generics and being more helpful. Yeah.
Good, healthy. What else have you got for us? Anything?
Well, we forget. I think that,
Heard any new jokes recently?
no, not really. Health insurance is free, yeah.
All right.
No,
Thank you very much.
overall, I think your plan's very solid. It's performed well this year.
Absolutely.
We met our targets, what we were hoping for, the savings. I think everybody settled into, once they figured out the rules of the high deductible plan.
Right.
First few months questionable, but I think we're past that.
Good,
We'll hit it again in open enrollment.
good. All right, thank you.
Before I
Thank
go,
you.
the reason we started a tick late was that I did get a return call from the Attorney General's office to clarify the questions we had regarding that $427,000 opioid settlement. My question was, what are the sources of all that? What they did when they said what the local settlement dollars would be, they combined both the retailers and the manufacturers' settlement sums.
Okay.
We will only get that 88,000 soon, but the retailers, they're still negotiating with Walgreens and CVS and all that, and we won't get the second installment until probably fourth quarter.
Okay.
So I think as far as putting a call out for grants,
We should wait
I think
until
we just hang on to it.
but both are subject to that same split that we had last year on restricted and non-restricted. So this gives us plenty of time to talk to our own
internal folks.
county agencies as well, but,
I don't think there's any reason to rush into it.
right, we have time because they said it is smart to wait until we get all the money before we start distributing. So
Okay.
that was just a piece of news I wanted to get before we broke up.
Thank you.
Functions a lot.
All right, Steve,
Much better
Look at it.
analysis.
how are you?
But
That was about an hour of my life I was get back.
Oh, you will get it back because of the
You-
great
you may
health
be
insurance
healthy and live
program that
longer.
we have. We may have saved you.
Okay.
We may not have too, but we did everything we could. The rest is up to
I'm
you.
scared he's moving the desk and we have no reason.
He's going to bring the map of the grounds, and we're going to talk about
Oh, okay.
What
I'm
we
like,
got.
what's he doing?
what are we going to do, what instructions are we going to give to,
And while we're speaking of this, just real quick, I went over to the courthouse in between lunch and now and talked to one of the judges. It might be, and Bobby, you might just want to be able to do this, send out an email if they cannot make our meeting next week, if they want to send their suggestions or questions about parking. If they want, because we need their input.
yep,
Yeah, I thought I would send.
Because it's, one of the judges said she's got court, so.
understood.
I think I'm going to send the judges, though, a specific.
A separate survey kind of
Yeah.
answering, asking for their input on these questions.
Yeah.
Okay, good idea.
So that they,
Yeah, to kind of direct what they
What we-
share with us,
Yeah.
because that's what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
good ideas. All right,
Control the
so
narrative.
what we're looking at, what we're looking at is a map of the courthouse block and the administration building block. And the dark gray is what, Steve? This is
Existing sidewalks.
It's what
but
we've
it's-
not
We've
fixed.
not done anything to them.
Yeah.
And so these are the ones that we have fixed.
Yeah, well, not
Here.
this.
Not that,
Yeah.
but where it's like,
Yeah.
looks like concrete or
Correct.
something.
Yeah.
Those have been replaced. There's a spot over here where the new stairwell is that's been worked on. This ramp, all the ramps
Yeah.
have been redone in the last few years.
Well,
And
this
then
this
the
this
sidewalk
stairway
here.
has not.
Right.
But the ramp.
But the
has.
ramp, that's not a ramp, it's a
Yeah.
stairway. Yeah. Just being clear.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the hash marks are the brickwork, which goes all the way around to that corner. And so my thought is we want them,
This obviously has been done since that.
yeah, so that we need to update that. But I think, the kind of the main thrust was on the brickwork, which is really bad, uneven, broken up. And then changing the depth of these parking spots on this side, which will be for emergency vehicles, right? Then from there, where do you want to go?
So you talked about eliminating that, but making a sidewalk. down.
all of the
All the
brickwork,
brickwork.
taking it out and replacing it with concrete in some way.
But I have an issue or a suggestion that we could do that kind of goes with our parking. I'm not going to mark on it. So
Well, I think he wants us to mark on it eventually, right? You want to-
one of the things that was brought up to me just recently was when the bike path was installed, they lost all this parking along East Main,
Right,
and a lot of the courthouse employees were parking
parked
there.
there.
We have some area here
Ooh,
we could make parking.
Well, we'd actually.
Because we have those could be gone, those where the tanks were.
right. But
Not
there's-
come in too much. I mean, you
there's a
still have,
pretty-
there's a big
There's
space
a
there.
pretty steep bank there, isn't there?
But it drops off, when it gets over to where the bushes are.
I'm just saying, if you came in at diagonal parking here, how many you could gain?
Well, this was actually talked about at one time,
As parking?
Yeah, that actually make an angled parking along here, and then your sidewalk would be, in front of the parking. I mean, that's been several years.
I mean, if we're doing it, we could look at something to add more parking.
I mean, we can just ask him, is there a way to add parking and where would it be if there were? Of course, we're adding parking down here by taking out the 3-hour
Right.
parking signs. That's not a lot further than
No, I
that
would,
is,
I
but
I
it's
would agree, but if we're gonna spend the
somewhat.
money, if we want to really solve any potential future parking problems, add more parking spots.
Yeah, which
It's just simple math, isn't it?
Yeah.
it is math.
I mean, and it's less maintenance to maintain, grass-wise.
I'd want to look at how many parking spaces can you pick up? What does that do to the existing sidewalk and bike path that's there? What kind of issues would there be? What's the city's take on
Oh, yeah, because we'd have to go across
crossing the bike path? I mean, I think the sidewalk, it would be up to us.
We don't want to take out all those bikers that are on that bike path.
But I have no objection whatsoever in looking at it. And of course, cost is going to be a factor too for all of this as we go to council and say, here's what we're thinking. So, we probably want to get their input as early into this as we can as well.
I mean, I guess if that's the case, we could always look at parking here or like Steve
Sure.
said here.
Sure. I think it would be, from strictly a parking perspective, it would be easier, maybe safer to come in off of Main Street
Right.
than off of South A.
Yeah, I agree.
May not let you do that anyway.
Well, that's true.
I think you have to have, because remember we were at
Oh, yeah,
the distance, remember?
they just barely let us
Yeah.
do that curb
I think
cut
it's
there.
300 feet, I think.
So that's probably not
Yeah.
more than 300 feet
I don't think
in
you
total.
could- I don't
or
think
not
you could
much
get
more.
an entryway into there.
What about
You
if
could
you
always
came
come in off of here.
Yeah, you could that.
So you could.
Yeah, because that's our street.
And that's a possibility too, I would think, that
That's a big area.
it's a
Actually,
big,
that's probably a better area if you considered it.
because you're coming off of this parking lot and then back
Even if you could add
onto
20
the parking lot.
spots.
Yeah.
That would-
Do you want to add that as a look at, and this is less
Flat.
elevation
Yeah,
change.
that's pretty flat there.
Because I'm thinking over there's a bank that goes down a couple feet at least. Got to move that much dirt. Okay. And do you want to look over there? I'm trying to think. I know there's some trees over there, but I don't think there's much else, is there?
Right, the trees are here.
Right, but aren't there a couple of like pine
Oh,
trees or something
yeah.
out there?
Oh, this is all pine trees here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But I was talking just,
Right, but you could also do it. You could also do it there if you. And that's a pretty big area. We can go out later and look and see if there's any other ideas. But I think that's an idea that merits some investigation.
What are these numbers here? See if there's
I don't know.
the arrows pointing.
they tie into another page. This
Oh.
is just one page.
Oh,
And
okay.
This is an island, that's an island, and that's an island.
And that's
This was-
sidewalk.
And this was curbing. Remember, we replaced some curbing?
Okay.
And that's probably the curbing specs.
So 7s are curbing,
Yeah.
8s are sidewalk.
Yeah, and it would refer to another page as
Okay.
far as their,
And then we also talked about reworking the sidewalk right around that entryway, didn't we? There's some steps there or something that look like they're in fairly bad shape.
right. And so, you know, you were talking to, if we're looking at concrete.
Right.
And then this would mirror up with that one.
Correct. It would
Because
be-
we
you remove-
narrow these.
Yeah.
remove about 2 feet or
And
3
then-
feet.
Then fix that at the same time.
Yeah. And then what about here? That redoing that whole plaza?
I think that it
taking
needs to
out
be
the
all redone.
bricks.
So that
So
we
the
can
question,
meet
you-
the ADA.
Yeah.
Right, the question though, do you bring this out and make it square, or you just look at that, or do you keep the same shape?
And I think he's a designer. Well, let's let him make a few proposals rather than telling
Argue
him
it.
exactly
And I
what we
think
want.
in our conversation out there, we had said that it probably would have a ramp and steps.
Probably.
Yeah.
Because I think.
Ramp
I
going
think-
up and steps on the side, is that
Yeah,
what
or
we?
vice versa.
Or vice versa, yeah. But to flatten out enough area at the top for wheelchair access, then it's too steep.
Steep to go
of a
straight
grade
down.
To go straight down, so it might have to, kind of be a switchback kind of thing where you change direction. And then, of course, I think what was a problem with the design from 5 or 6 years ago was making sure that whatever ramp is there doesn't become a direct
Right.
access to the door with a vehicle. And I just think we need to value engineer this so that we need to do it, but we need to try to get it done at a reasonable cost,
Economical.
economical.
And then, remember we talked about remember we'd done these sidewalks, but
Yeah,
this one had some
that
cracks
one.
in it. You want to include, and all this.
We
is-
talked about even taking out these
Well, so it all
diagonals.
depends on what we do here. If we do
Yeah, if
parking,
It's
then,
parking,
then,
it's a moot point.
Yeah.
We have to rework that anyway.
yeah.
I think at least we would want to take out this diagonal to give us some options. And as I recall, this one, the straight north-south was in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing, we had some, so one or two really big trees, right?
Yeah.
There's some trees there, and
They're
I'd
old.
like to-
They're old trees.
yeah, but some of them, at least a couple of them, seem to be in good shape.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them that are not in such good shape, and I wouldn't mind if those had to come out, but I'd hate to take out a really big old tree
Yeah, and
in
they're-
scale with the courthouse, and then replace it with a 6 foot tall
Ornamental.
something.
Jeff, you'd mentioned this sidewalk too, and steps. Remember, these are
Right.
the old stone steps out
Right,
here.
and that's where that rail
Yeah.
that needs to be painted is, if we leave it there.
Yeah.
And there probably hasn't been a half a dozen people come up that stairway, and
Well, yeah, because basically on this end and this end, there's
there's no way. You
there's
gotta- you
entryways
gotta
there
go
that we
around.
don't use now,
Right,
so why do
right.
we have sidewalks going to them?
Right. And if they're in good shape, that's one thing, but if they need to be replaced,
Well,
then
the reason why these need to be good is
it's
because
an
they're
emergency
exits.
exit.
They're
For
exits.
emergency exits.
But obviously, there's no
Yeah.
parking out here any longer, so this gets used very little.
Right,
As
right.
well as these.
Right,
Uh,
okay.
But remember,
There's a stairway there
But we,
too, right?
fixed
you did that one,
the-
right?
fixed
the
Because the parking lot
stairwells.
here, that's where a lot of the
Right.
employees come up and they
But
park.
this
Right.
stretch of sidewalk, I think,
Right.
needs to be replaced.
Is there a crosswalk there?
I don't think so.
there is.
I don't think so.
The handicap, that's why there's no handicap over here, because it's
Yeah.
not accessible.
Right, and there's no crosswalk at the corner. It's just on that end, I believe.
Hasn't
Is
been
that,
marked yet.
that's a state highway.
Yeah.
right there.
Right, that's.
I wonder if we could
that's
petition to
40.
get a crosswalk there, that if we have employees that were going to be parking in this west parking lot.
Right, and this would probably be the best place
Right.
for it, up there, straight with that sidewalk. Because I assume then they'd be walking this way.
Yeah, because if they're parking here, they're going to walk all the way down and.
I think the actual curb is here, though. See, remember, that's a bank, right? I mean, I know they walk
Right,
through
but I
there.
mean, they can come here and then.
That's right.
Cross that way,
They
or
don't-
they could cross straight across
Yeah.
and walk around that way. But either way, we need to make sure that that sidewalk is walkable, not trippable.
And again, it's not ours. This sidewalk,
Yeah.
the state right-of-way
Goes into the
goes in.
yard.
Yeah, so it's not even on our property.
Okay, well, so do we need to ask them to replace it?
I thought it was going to be part of their paving project.
And their paving project was very minimal. I mean, they
Compared to
just-
what was on North A.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that's why I thought that they were going to fix the sidewalk, but they
Well, they
didn't.
didn't fix any curbs or anything except the handicap ramps at some of the corners.
Correct.
Okay. I'm sure this is riveting television for all of you folks who are watching. Sorry, but something that needs to be done within a commissioner's meeting so that it's public information that we're having these discussions.
And then, remember we had talked about these curbings. Is that
Right.
for another day, or is that part of the landscaping process?
What's in those curbs now? Is it landscaping now?
Trees, yeah, trees and mulch, wood chips.
It's in a parking lot. I know why it's there, but do we need them?
You know, a lot of parking lots don't have them. I think it adds something to the safety for having the traffic lanes separated
See, I think-
from the parking area.
Is there a light there?
There,
Yeah.
There
they
might
have
be- there's a light
lights.
there,
and I think all
Yeah.
3 of these have lights.
So if we, we talked about part of the landscaping, those lighting.
Yeah, and I don't think we would gain enough by taking those
Taking them
out
out.
to get any additional parking spaces. Although we might here because there's more than enough room for 2 parking spaces in that area that we're removing. So, I mean, you could shorten that up and maybe get 4 more, or at least 3 more in that row instead of just 2 more.
We'll see how much pavement he tears up.
Yeah, we may be repaving the whole lot.
Because even when he tears out this stump, that might answer your question.
That might.
Whether that comes out or
Although
not.
that one doesn't necessarily have to come out.
Nah,
It
but
could just be,
it would
it
look
could just be
kinda-
chipped.
Yeah.
It could be chipped down below grade
Yeah.
instead of.
So what's your,
Stump.
I think we're on the same page with this and this, but what's your thoughts here? Are we looking at a 6-foot wide concrete sidewalk? Are we looking at a decorative sidewalk?
There's no difference. I mean, he could give us estimates both ways on a stamped sidewalk versus just a plain concrete. My guess is if everything else is just plain concrete, we're not going to.
I say we go
Go
just
with
plain
it.
concrete. Stamping can be slick, it can be,
And it doesn't hold up as long.
it doesn't
as
hold
a
up as
regular
good.
concrete
Straight
finish.
or curved ornamental?
I would say let him give us some options, but in large measure, that too is going to be dependent on whether we decide to put any parking spaces in there.
Yeah, if we go parking on this side and then it'd be nice to have a 6-foot sidewalk there and have some nice picnic tables for our employees to be able to go at
Exactly.
lunchtime and when it's nice
That's what I'd
out.
like to have. Now we've got a few picnic tables out there, but they're
They
in
need
such
replaced,
bad
yeah.
shape that I wouldn't want to sit there to eat my lunch. So if we had a little nicer, upgraded,
Area.
yeah.
How do you're wanting him to use his artistic expertise for, do you see the sidewalk that goes over to the north entrance there, a little wider because of the ramp and the steps?
Here?
Yeah. Of where the sidewalk would come off of the 6-foot.
Yeah, probably would need to flare out to encompass all of that area. My real concern is you start taking out the brickwork, where do you stop? You almost have to go all the way to that corner and
I think you take it all out.
And I suppose
Now,
it would
some
be
of
possible
that
to.
brickwork at the corner the city put in.
Well, we'll have to talk to them then, but it might be possible because the memorial is at that corner, so it might be possible to
Just
kind of
stop it right
cut
there
it
and
off
leave those
there
bricks there
and
with
leave
that
the
memorial.
And there is a concrete divider between the
Right.
sidewalk and that curb.
Right, and so,
Now it's uneven, but
well, we could fix
but I
that.
think that would be the
That
stop
may be
point.
the best, is to leave that corner because it was designed to match the memorial,
Plus
right?
it's got the handicap ramp in it.
Right. So let's think in terms of leaving that part in and then taking the brickwork out there.
Just about right in there.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. And then, are those the sidewalks that were replaced, or is just the bike path was replaced and the sidewalk was not? I thought, I don't remember, I was thinking that.
I don't think they were,
We thought they were gonna
yeah.
replace the sidewalk, but they
didn't.
ended up not, just putting in the bike path. Okay.
Now, I think on down, it's been replaced. On
In-
beyond.
Oh, here,
down
yeah.
there, Yeah.
But this part, then, we
It's still-
probably need to
it's just
look
concrete.
at. But again, if we're gonna put in any more parking, we need to consider that. I have concerns with the bike path being there, to have a lot of entry and exit there, I think becomes somewhat problematic. I suppose it's done all the time in other areas, but
No, I think you're right.
this just seems like a more logical place to me as we're looking through all the options. And it's a fairly big area, so it'd be nice to know if we did that, how many spaces we
Maybe
could
when
put
we're
in.
done, we can go out and just
Yeah,
walk
we'll
around
take a
again and
look.
refresh our memories.
Yeah, I think we should. What else have you got for us, Stephen?
That's it.
Okay. Golly, and it's only 2:30
And we got a fleet manager
at 4. Anything else? Bobby?
Animal Care Alliance called back,
Okay.
and they're going to attend a meeting next week.
Okay.
But they want you to clarify in your letter. You said you wanted to know what they've been doing this past 6 months. They want to clarify more as to, like their day-to-day activities,
And
kind of an overall, what it is that they're wanting.
The reference was to the report they're supposed to give us every 6 months that's part of the contract or the agreement that we had with them. And so I think we just send them a copy of the agreement and say, we want the report that is due to us per our current agreement. And I forget how that's worded in there, but that's what we want them to do, is provide the report that we should receive at this time every year. Okay? And you've got a copy of the agreement that you can send them?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
No, I think that's all I have.
All right, and I think the signature pages are all up here, and I think we're done. So thank you very much, everybody. We're adjourned.